Honor Tara Gordon is suing her former clients, Beatrice Jackson and Nicholas Smith, for the balance of a wedding contract.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case number 2030, Gordon versus Jackson Smith.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Gordon, you're a wedding planner.
Yes.
You called her to plan a wedding that you were having in Las Vegas.
Yes.
Is your husband?
Yes.
The wedding was scheduled for what date?
April 30th of 22.
Your lawsuit against the defendants is for the balance of a fee that you say is due and owing to you. Ms. Jackson and Mr. Smith are counterclaiming for a whole bunch of things. They said that not only didn't they get everything that they paid for, that you selected the venue, and they were ejected from the venue because they weren't allowed to have a wedding there or serve liquor. So what was your fee that you quoted the defendants, and how much of that fee did they pay?
My fee for planning the wedding was $4,000.
And that $4,000, was that fee reduced to a contract?
Yes, it was.
I'd like to see it.
Okay.
Ms. Jackson, this your first wedding?
Yes.
And yours?
Yes.
Okay, your total fee was $4,000 and a deposit of $2,000. Did they give you a deposit?
Yes.
Okay, so they signed an agreement to pay you $4,000. How much did they pay you in total?
In total, for our planning fee, they paid
No, in total, how much did they pay your company?
$2,000.
$2,000.
Correct. So how our company is set up is we're set up as an affordable payment plan for a wedding. So we set up our clients on a payment plan. So they also pay the expenses of all of their wedding through us.
So you have to send them an invoice for what it was that you spent for the vendors.
Correct.
Okay.
And then also the default of that contract states that if they miss payments, they have breached the contract.
That's why we're here. Each of you is accusing the other of breaching this agreement. You say that they didn't finish paying you what they owed you, and they say you didn't furnish the services to them that they signed up for the wedding. They gave you $2,000, and the wedding was supposed to be held where?
The banquet hall.
Did you send them a deposit?
No, because at that time she had not paid enough money.
Just a second. The answer is no. You had not sent them a deposit.
No.
Had they sent you the deposit of $2,000?
They sent me the deposit for our planning fee, yes.
I'm talking about for your planning fee, $2,000.
Yes.
And how much was the deposit for?
50% of $16,000, which was $8,000.
And where is the invoice for that you sent them?
I don't have that invoice because she was not able to secure the venue.
I read it. And from what I read in your complaint, the original venue that you secured, according to you, was rendered unavailable because of a broken pipe.
That was the second venue. We went through 3 venues. The first venue, she lost that venue because she could not keep up with the payments and did not submit money for a deposit. The second venue was the R&R Event Center. That venue she lost because a pipe broke in the venue.
Okay, just a second. R&R
Event Center.
And when was that taken?
That was booked on March 11, 2022. And I do have the invoice for that.
And how much was it?
$2,250.
Okay, that's much better than $8,000. Okay. Did she put in a deposit?
Deposit was made from the monthly payments that she makes towards her wedding.
Show me invoices that you sent her every month.
Yes, I have that.
Well, I'd like to see them.
This is the statement of the account. It lists all the invoices that she was sent on a monthly basis.
So she paid you the $20,000 that was invoiced.
Her wedding cost a total of $23,651.
No, that's not what I said. Opening balance was $0. Invoice $20,451.57. Paid $19,356.57. That's what this says. Uncross your arms.
Correct. No, that's
okay.
That's
so
correct.
She paid for everything. Now.
No, she didn't pay for everything because, as I just stated, her wedding cost a total of $23,651.
Let's go back to, because I see that we're not getting anywhere. Before her wedding, before anything happened, before she said, I do, and before he says, I take you, she paid practically $20,000, which was your original estimate and her budget for the wedding. There's a second. That's either a yes or a no. Before the wedding, your original budget that you were given by the defendant, I read the papers, was $20,000.
So, and
That's either a yes, I read the papers, or a no.
yes, that is the budget she stated she would like to stay around. But however, in planning a wedding, you cannot give an exact of how it's going to cost.
I didn't say that. I didn't,
So after
Madam, pay careful attention to me. I've made 16 weddings. I've had 16 event planners. I know exactly how it works, and I know exactly that you can't always predict to the $100 or $50 or sometimes $500 how much more the wedding is going to cost. It never costs less. That's not what I said to you. I said by the time the wedding took place, she had paid the vast majority of the original amount that she said she wanted to spend for the wedding. And that is accurate. She said she wanted to spend $20,000. She gave you over $19,000. Did that include your fee?
No, it didn't.
Just a second. So the answer is no. That's what she wanted to spend exclusive of your fee.
Correct.
Now, of your fee, she gave you an initial deposit, or they did, of $2,000.
So
that's either a yes or a no. She gave you $2,000. Did she ever pay you the other $2,000 for the fee? And the rest of the expenses that you want are the additional expenses over and above the $20,000 that, stop shaking your head, over and above what she originally said she wanted to spend.
Correct.
Now, I'm going to get to what happened just about a week before the wedding.
Okay.
You had booked a place. She had paid for the place, $2,250.
Yes.
And that was at R&R. According to you, something happened at R&R. Stop shaking your head. It's annoying. Something happened at R&R. What happened at R&R and when?
Correct. The wedding was scheduled to happen on April 30th.
Tell me what happened at R&R.
I was informed by Rico, the owner, sitting on that side, that a pipe had busted and the venue would no longer be available for usage on her wedding date.
And on what date was that?
It was around the week before her wedding, or 2 weeks before her wedding, sorry.
Date?
I don't have the exact date.
You own, manage, or what, this R&R?
I'm the owner of R&R Event Center.
Okay, tell me your last name, sir.
Cox, C-O-X.
Do you remember having a conversation with the plaintiff about the venue?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you remember when it was?
March 25th of 2022.
Can you tell me what you said to her and what she said to you?
We had a conversation. I'm like, hey, problem with my venue. I had a pipe that busted. I won't be able to host her wedding. Well, the reception, I should say. So I informed her I can put her in contact with other venues that I may know, or I could send her back the deposit. She asked for the deposit back. I sent the deposit back probably within the hour.
How much was the deposit? $2,250?
No, ma'am.
How much was it?
$1,125, which was half.
So 50%?
Yes, ma'am.
So you sent her back the deposit?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you receive the deposit, Miss Gordon?
Yes, I did.
The wedding wasn't until April 30th. So you had plenty of time. Well, not plenty of time. You had time to look for a new venue, or else they were going to have to change the date.
Correct, and they found
Just
it.
shh. What venue, you can sit down, Mr. Cox, thank you very much. What venue did you select? And had you ever used them before?
No, I had not. I never worked with a challenge budget like this for a venue.
If you don't like the budget, don't take the gig.
Yeah, I won't.
And that's where the reception was held. But that venue was not allowed to have this kind of party.
I was not aware of that until the day of the wedding.
That's your problem. Mm-hmm. That's not their problem. They hired you as an event planner.
They did, and they got a
wedding.
The wedding went the entire time. The wedding was not closed until after the wedding had already ended. So they used the venue regardless.
Okay. Miss Gordon, it's your job as the event planner, which is what I don't understand you being here. Mm-hmm. It's your job as the event planner. They don't live in Las Vegas. Mm-hmm. That's your job to ensure that the place that you select is a venue that's capable of performing the duties that you outlined in your contract, which means they serve food, they're allowed to serve liquor, they're allowed to dance, they're allowed to host an event of how many people?
It was supposed to be 120, but all of my guests didn't get their invitation. So.
Okay, so over 100 people.
Your Honor, it wasn't that they were not allowed to have the wedding there. They were allowed to have the wedding there. What they were not allowed to do was the business was not allowed to operate after a certain time, and that is what the business owner produced to us.
Just a second. You want to show me a contract that she signed with that business owner? Ms. Gordon?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I would like to see the contract that you signed with this business owner. Sarah, just for my own information, would you look up this venue, please? Tell me what you find.
Sure.
Ms. Gordon, this space was a little less money than the previous space that you had selected.
Correct.
$500, $700?
Yes, and that's because they were not providing all of the things that the original event place was providing.
Was this event space that you booked at the end of the evening, I don't want to use the word raided, closed by the police? That's either a yes. Did the police arrive at this venue?
Yes, they did.
Okay. And what time did the police arrive at the venue?
They arrived at 9:30.
Is there a police report that anyone has?
No.
And how many parties have you done where police arrived at the end of an evening or during the course of an evening in the 2 years that you've been in Las Vegas?
Never.
And the police arrived at this wedding not because anybody was creating a disturbance, there weren't shots fired.
Well, no, that is why.
You may say so, I don't know anything about the venue, but that's your job. You're supposed to know about the venue.
When I told her in the first place that she needed to postpone her wedding, that was my professional
You mean that's
advice.
No, that's not what she hired you for, to tell you to postpone her wedding.
Wedding planner Tara Gordon claims her former clients, Beatrice Jackson and Nicholas Smith, owe for the balance of their wedding. Beatrice and Nicholas are countersuing for breach of contract.
Okay, police arrived at this wedding not because anybody was creating a disturbance, there weren't shots fired.
Well, no, that is why. They initially had a report because
Well, I don't know that. If you can show it to me,
I don't have the
I'd be
police
more than
report.
happy to look at it. The police showed up.
May I bring my witness up, please?
For what reason?
Because she can attest to the altercation that took place prior, which is why we were even brought up on the radar, because the other businesses in the vicinity of where the business takes place had complained. There was a lot of altercation back and forth outside of the event because she refused to sign the agreed upon payment plan to continue payments after the wedding.
You understand that I'm not particularly sympathetic.
I'm not
I'm
asking
letting you know I'm not particularly sympathetic for the following reason. Somebody plans a wedding and has a budget of $20,000 plus your fee, so that's, say, $25,000 that they either put together or are saving up for a wedding, first for each. A week before the wedding, something happens with the venue, where the wedding could not be held at the venue of their choice. They're relying on an out-of-state wedding planner, that's you, to find a legitimate venue that is licensed to have an event. When they get to Las Vegas on the date of the wedding, you present them with a new contract.
No, that is not true. That
Well,
is
when
where
did you
have it incorrect.
just a second. When did you give them? Because you said that the problem which caused the police to
text
come.
messages, too.
Just a second. I don't understand.
Before I selected the very last venue, she was on FaceTime with me, looking at the venue with me, because I informed her I've never worked with this venue. I don't know anything about the venue. I told her that the best thing for her is to postpone her wedding. She was already behind in payments. This is her third venue.
Just a second. She paid you almost the entire $20,000.
She paid it in March. In March.
Doesn't matter. She paid you almost the entire.
30 days before her wedding. That's what you're not hearing.
I'm not looking at you. Before her wedding, she paid you almost the entire amount of the $20,000 that she originally gave you as a budget before the wedding.
If you look at the contract, it says that you're going to make monthly payments so that we can adequately plan your wedding. You booked me back in 2021, almost a year before your wedding. The wedding was to be planned over the course of that year. The initial venue that I have worked with, that I know is reputable, she ended up not paying the deposit on time, so they had to move forward with another date. After that, I didn't get any payments from her until March, when she got her tax return. And then at that time, I was forced with less than 60 days to try to find another venue, in which I did, which was R&R event space. And then a pipe busted in that event space. And then I was forced to find another venue for her. I told her back in January, the top of the year, You need to postpone your wedding. Before invitations went out, before of all of that, when she was having troubles with her payment plan, I advised her as a professional, I think you should postpone your wedding date.
You may talk a lot, but the bottom line is you're the expert. Uncross your arms. You're the expert. You're trying to talk over me? You're trying to talk over me?
No, I'm not.
Good. So you're the expert. She's out of town. The reason that she selects a wedding planner in Las Vegas is because you're supposed to know whether or not the venue that you recommend is able to take care of the party you book. You may say to her, I don't uncross. You may say to her, I don't know anything about the venue, but that's your job. You're supposed to know about the venue.
When I told her in the first place that she needed to postpone her wedding, that was my professional
You mean that's
advice.
No, that's not what she hired you for, to tell you to postpone her wedding. She hired you to plan her wedding, not to give her advice whether or not you're trying to talk over me. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. You have to understand there are certain things that you did.
Okay.
You got out the invitations. That's a great thing. I assume you got a DJ. That's great. All of those things. The wedding itself, to me, was problematic. If my wedding ended with the police coming to the venue, and it turned out that the venue was one where you weren't allowed to have that kind of an event, I would be annoyed at the wedding.
They were allowed to have a wedding.
No, they weren't. The police officer.
The contract clearly states that.
I don't care what it states.
That's not what the police officer said.
And you know because you have a police
I don't
report,
care what
you
it
spoke to them? No,
I don't
you
care what it
escorted out.
states. You started to tell me before that the reason the police came there is because there was an altercation about you giving her another contract on that date, and there were words outside, and people were complaining, other people who were in the area.
That's not what I said.
What did you say?
The night before her wedding, I explained to her.
I want to know what's happened on the date of the wedding. Just a second.
Can you let me finish so I can articulate?
I want you to go because I have a limited amount of time and I'm getting very old. I thought what you said to me, and you're going to read this back, is that the reason the police were drawn to the venue is because of the arguments outside.
Correct.
Let's read that
That's
back.
what I just
that was on the date of the wedding.
Correct.
You got married, and you're happy, and you had people at the wedding.
Got a free wedding.
And you
$20,000.
you're almost done. Do you understand? You're almost finished. Go ahead.
We were brought up on the radar because the other businesses in the vicinity where the event took place had complained. There was a lot of altercation back and forth outside of the event because she didn't agree to sign the payment plan.
Okay. So the reason that you said, let's go back, that the police came to the venue and then shut it down because it wasn't allowed to be used for what it was used for was because there were altercations about this second contract.
No, that's not the contract we were having an altercation about. That's what I'm trying to
Oh,
explain
just a
to
second.
you.
On the day of the wedding, Miss Gordon, did you present her with a new contract to sign? That's either a yes or a no.
Yes, I did, but not for the venue. That's
It's not for the venue. I didn't say it was for the venue.
Yes.
On the day of her wedding, did you present her with a new contract? The answer is yes.
Yes.
You said you had discussed that with her the night before?
Correct.
And uncross.
Oh, sorry.
And the night before, did she agree to sign?
Yes, she
Just a
did.
second. A new contract?
Yes, she did.
Okay. And the new contract provided for what?
The new contract that she was supposed to sign
Provided for what?
provided for the remainder balance of the $23,681 that her wedding actually cost. Because she had only paid $19,000, you have the sheet, so I don't have the
have it,
exact number.
19,356.57.
Correct. So since she had only paid that amount and the total expenses for her wedding were $23,681, so the night before she agreed to make a payment plan with me to extend her payments beyond her wedding date to pay off this remaining balance.
And is that what she agreed to on the phone? Is that what you're saying to me?
Correct.
She agreed with
She
you
agreed
on... Shh. She agreed on the phone to pay you the additional $3,500 or $4,000, and she agreed to pay it over time.
Correct.
And that was Friday night.
Correct.
And then she got to the wedding.
Correct.
And at what point did you present her with the new contract? At what point in the event?
Upon her arrival to the reception venue.
Now, what happened when you got to the reception venue? You'd already gotten through the ceremony, so you're already married. What time did you get to reception?
So the reception was supposed to start at 5. It was supposed to start at 5, but when we got there, she wasn't even done decorating. All of my family stayed outside for another hour, including my grandmother, my grandpa. We waited in cars. Okay.
She said it was supposed to start at 5.
At 5.
This venue that I have here someplace, you have it?
I think it was supposed to start at 5:30 and end at 10:30 per the contract.
Okay, thank you. Was it supposed to start at 5:30?
Yes.
What happened at 5:30, Ms. Gordon?
I presented her with the contract, and then she refused to sign it. Her guests were waiting outside because she was refusing to sign it. When she refused to sign it, because our agreement was she was going to sign the agreement before we started the reception. When she said that she did not want to start the reception, I responded and I said, we will pack all of this up and my staff and I will leave because now we're not being paid for our services.
What time did the police arrive? I'm telling you, I would be furious if I spent $20,000 for a wedding and my evening ended by the police having my guests leave. Furious.
Wedding planner Tara Gordon has accused her former clients, Beatrice Jackson and Nicholas Smith, of refusing to pay the remaining wedding balance. Beatrice and Nicholas claim Tara booked an illegal venue for their reception.
So, what time did the police arrive?
The police arrived at 9:30.
And did the police tell everyone to leave?
Yes, they did.
And told everyone that they had to leave?
They arrived and they told me that everyone had to leave.
Whether they told you or whether
Yes.
they told them.
Yes.
They said the place had to be clear.
Correct.
And that was an hour before the termination of the event.
So at the end, the event was...
The event was supposed to end at 10:30. Police arrived at 9:30. That's according to you. That's an hour short of the event time she was supposed to have at the venue.
No, the event was supposed to end at 9:30. This is her timeline of events that was supposed to take place.
This is the contract.
That's the time that I have the venue too. I have to clean up. The agreed upon timeline is here. The wedding was supposed to end at 9:30, giving me an hour to clean up.
I'll take a look at what you have. I'm just telling you that this is the signed contract.
That's signed between me and the venue because they were giving me an extra hour to clean up.
That doesn't say that in here.
Because I booked it for a timeline. I booked it from 5:30 to 10:30. I outlined everything that takes place. It ended at the last song of the night was at 9:30. And she went through the last song. We made it through the last song of the night on time.
Could I take a look at that?
I just can't wait till it's my turn.
Well, the last song of the night was supposed to start at 9:30.
Yes, and it started earlier because we made it through and she was done dancing. And by the time the police came, it was just mingling and dancing going on. So she had made it through her entire wedding reception is what I'm trying to state.
Yes, Mr. Cox.
Please, please.
Hey, Your Honor, I'm back. That's not true. The police actually came at 9 o'clock, and
Were you there?
I was the DJ.
You were the DJ?
Yes, ma'am.
That didn't get paid.
Don't.
Oh, he got paid.
Don't.
He got paid.
Speak. So the police arrived at 9 o'clock.
That's correct.
And what happened when they arrived, Mr. Cox?
So
By the way, did you know them before the wedding?
No, ma'am.
Did you know her before the wedding?
Just conversation that we had via Facebook or telephone.
No, he did not know me
So no.
prior to the
I'm
wedding.
I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to him. She booked your services.
Yes, ma'am.
And how much were your services for the night?
My DJing services were $500.
Were you paid?
No, ma'am.
What happened when the police arrived?
The police came, asked everyone to leave.
Do you know anything about this venue space where the wedding took place?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about it.
It's a storefront.
So are a lot of venues in Las Vegas.
Your case is dismissed. Do you understand? This is not a free-for-all. As far as I'm concerned, you got almost exactly what her budget called for. And I have one vendor that wasn't paid.
Because she didn't pay. It's clear.
Well, how do I know that you paid the other vendors? At least I know one vendor that you didn't pay, and she paid
It's right in
almost
front of you.
$20,000.
They got paid because, okay.
I have two things. I have one vendor that's here that wasn't paid. You were paid almost $20,000. The balance, part of it, is for your fee. Part of it is
My
for...
fee was not.
Are you saying that part of this money that you're suing for, this $4,000, was not part of your fee?
The $4,000 that I'm suing for is part of my fee.
Of course, that's what I said. So part of that money was for your fee, and part of it was for vendors. I have one vendor here who says he wasn't paid.
Well, I have receipts from other vendors if you like to see.
No, I know you had a lot of vendors, but you didn't pay him. He's the only
I didn't pay him
body.
because she didn't pay me. It's clear. She didn't pay me enough money to pay her venue. I have here proof of how much every item in her wedding cost, which exceeded the $19,000 that she paid. Clearly, she owes more money. That's the facts of the matter. She owes more money to
She's
what her wedding cost.
She's countersuing you for ruining her wedding because you booked it at a venue that wasn't allowed to have a wedding. She's got a counterclaim for far more than your claim. Bottom line is, she picked a wedding planner, she picked a venue, she tacitly approved this change of venue. Both of you had to at the last minute, but you did that relying on the wedding planner to find a venue that was capable to hold the event, and it wasn't. It wasn't. That's your job. Your job is to find an appropriate place so that the police don't raid a wedding a half hour before it's over. That's not the way a wedding is supposed to end. So what I want you to tell me is you're suing her for $4,300. How much of that $4,300 is your fee?
$2,000.
And you didn't pay him?
No.
So that's 24 minus 500. You didn't pay him because you have to pay him.
I paid him.
Part of
He's
it
already
was to
paid.
pay him.
I'm deducting it.
Okay.
I'm not paying you for your fee.
Okay.
You booked the wrong space for your fee. So far, I have $1,825. Other than the DJ, who else didn't you pay? I'm very clear.
Can I?
Other than the DJ, he's going to tell me, the DJ is going to tell me, other than the DJ, who else didn't you pay? Mr. Cox, could you stand up, please? You seem to want to tell me something, and since you didn't know either one of these parties, I'm going to let you tell me. Do you know any other vendor other than you who wasn't paid?
The bartender also was not paid.
Bartender.
That's correct.
Which is his wife.
That's correct.
I don't care if it was his wife or not, it was the bartender.
Right, but what I'm saying was the bar was included.
How much were you supposed to pay the bartender?
The bar and the bartender came with him. He offered to do the bar and to DJ because his pipe busted. So what I'm saying is, he said, I'll bring my bar and I'll do a cash bar, meaning that...
that's because a bar you can't have for $500. So
Right,
we'll
but
do
he
a
was
cash
doing
bar.
Correct.
Did you do a cash bar?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Okay. So you made some money off the cash bar?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, of course. Got it. Now you can sit. So what you paid him was $500 for both.
And $150 for the bar.
$650 total.
That's what he charged them outside of the wedding.
This is a very easy case for me. You were paid almost $20,000.
I wasn't paid anything. I was
Yes.
paid $2,000.
And I would feel doubly furious if on the day of my wedding, as a new bride of an hour, the event planner said to me, you can't go in unless you sign this contract, modifying our first contract.
The contract was not to modify.
Your case is
the
dismissed.
contract.
We're done.
Okay.
This court is adjourned.
So your counterclaim.
There are some things that I realized that, I could have done better.
Basically, 10 days before the wedding, add additional $4,000 on top of $20,000.
That never happened.
It was just her way of just trying to come up on more money, in my opinion.
At the end of the day, she had got her wedding.
I'm actually sometimes surprised at professionals like this woman, who is an event planner, has a reputation. She was almost fully compensated for this event. And the wedding was, if it were my wedding, I would say, it's ruined by having a police shut it down. We had a wedding a month ago. What would you think if the police showed?
You would not be happy if you paid any amount of money to a professional and had that happen. I really thought it was outrageous.
The whole thing was just tacky, waiting outside the venue when she got there from the ceremony, and before she could go in, she had to sign the contract. That's really not what you do as a professional.
Bad business.
Jimmy Davis is suing motorist Micaiah Begum for property damage to his house from a car accident.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, everyone.
Hello, Judge. Case 2157, Davis versus Bigham.
Miss Bingham,
Yes, ma'am.
you hit Mr. Davis's house.
This is wall, retaining wall.
Wall.
Yes, ma'am.
You hit his wall
Yes, ma'am.
with your car.
Yes, ma'am.
It damaged his wall. His wall didn't move. His wall didn't come up on you. And you were at home at the time.
No, ma'am, I was actually away.
Okay, so you didn't see what happened.
Did not visually witness the incident,
Okay.
just the damage after.
Who did?
There were several neighbors. One of my neighbors
You
called
don't
me.
just. You have no witnesses here today.
I do not have any witnesses with me today. They could not.
Do you have a police report?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
I'd like to take a look at it. Thank you. Accident happened on September 22nd. Whose car were you driving?
It was my car. My dad bought it for me.
When?
Last year, sometime.
What kind of car is it?
2012 Nissan Altima.
You have insurance on the car?
I have insurance.
Did you have insurance, and you're going to tell me with whom, because that you can check, on September 22nd of 2022?
Yes, ma'am.
You did?
Yes, ma'am.
With whom?
Direct.
Okay, let me see that you had insurance. Do you have proof that you had insurance on the car?
Well, I have the policy.
Were you current on payments for the policy?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you had insurance. I'm just wondering why your insurance didn't cover this accident. No. What time did you hit his wall on the 22nd?
It was around 4:30, 4:45-ish.
In the afternoon?
Yes, ma'am.
Where were you going?
I was on the way to pick up my uncle to go to my son's football game.
Okay, so Miss Bingham, tell me what happened.
I was getting off the interstate. I turned right. I was coming up to the light. As I was going to the light, I never seen the car.
Go to the chart and explain it to me.
Okay, so this is 28th. I got up the interstate. This is me driving straight to the light. As I was going straight, just how it happened, a car comes out from over here, Haley Park. It hits me. It caused me to go left, but I was in this lane. I was in this lane. It was going to cause me to go left and hit the cars in these lanes. So I turned right, and I ended up in his yard to avoid a collision.
Do you have photographs of the rear damage to your car?
It's right here, but you can't see. I guess they cropped out most of it.
I want to see the damage to the right
If I may.
driver's side. Yes,
I have some photos that might be helpful.
I'd like to see them.
These are the car, and these are other damages as well.
So it appears that someone hit her car on the driver's rear panel
Yes, ma'am.
and took off.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Do you own this home, sir?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
And there's no question that you swerved in and damaged his property.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did you try to contact her insurance company?
I did.
You went home, you were called, came from wherever you were from work, you came home, you took
Correct.
a look at it. Car was still there when you got home?
No, ma'am. The car was removed. My neighbor was able to put me on the phone with Makia and the police officer, so I was able to get that information. Immediately, when returning home, I reached out to submit the photos that I had taken myself and submit the police report after obtaining it. It took, quite a considerable amount of time to get back with me, but when I reached out again to understand the status, they, said that she's not liable and they were not going to stand behind it.
Can I see what they sent to you? Did they send something to you?
They did send a letter.
I'd like to see it.
I do not have that letter with me, but I actually called to speak with them.
You said they sent you a letter.
Yes, ma'am.
And where is it?
I don't have the letter. It was a denial letter.
That said it was not her fault.
It did not say it was her fault, but they said they could not submit the claim due to, I guess, whatever insurance she had or whatever coverage she had, the amount of coverage.
Oh, no, that's a different story. You see, that's why I need the letter.
Okay.
Either they said that they're denying the claim because it wasn't her fault, or they denied the claim because she had no insurance to cover it.
The letter also indicated, of course, reaching out to the company to speak and discuss it further. So when I did reach out to the point of contact on the letter to understand why they weren't covering it, the amount of coverage that she had did not cover, I guess, property damage. And that was an argument between me and the company. And
Well, how much did it cover?
they did not
how much-
specify.
Oh, well,
They
that's...
simply denied it and pushed it away and actually hung up on me. So there's no denying the car's there, right?
Yes.
No denying the accident.
No, I do understand you. Do you have homeowner's insurance?
I do have homeowners.
Did you put it in through your homeowner's insurance?
Consulted homeowners insurance, and they suggested that I work this out, me personally, instead of taking the hit on my homeowner's insurance as a victim of this accident. So I didn't see that necessary.
Well, Mr. Davis, I sort of disagree with you, sir. And usually that's not the position I take. But if I am to believe Miss Bingham, and based upon the evidence that you presented to me, it clearly demonstrates that she was hit. Her vehicle was a victim of a hit and run. Her vehicle was hit, which caused this accident. There is no indication anywhere in the police reports that she was speeding, that she went through a light.
Based on her own testimony, she swerved in my direction to avoid hitting other cars.
Well, wouldn't that be smart? If her insurance didn't cover it, your homeowners will cover it.
My homeowners covers that, and that's a penalty for me, and I'm a victim here.
So is she.
Crossed over.
Just a second. So is she. She can't find the other driver. I mean, it would be different.
That's her responsibility.
No, sir.
And later today.
We would like the 2 kayaks back.
Correct.
And when did you begin storing them at the defendant's?
I brought them over the next day after I bought them.
Okay, you acknowledge the fact that the plaintiff, who was then your friend, brought them over for you to store. You're not friends anymore. She wants them back. Why not?
Jimmy Davis claims motorist Micaiah Bingham owes for damage to his house after Micaiah crashed into his yard.
That sounds smart. She didn't want to hit oncoming traffic coming from the other direction.
It was not oncoming traffic. She was in the same lane with the traffic.
If I am to believe her, and your evidence showing that her car was hit in the rear on the driver's side, so I have no reason to doubt her. There was no issue of drugs or alcohol involved. You weren't issued a citation, I assume?
No, ma'am.
No. Then if her insurance didn't cover it, your homeowners will cover it.
Sure.
And you should go through your homeowners.
My homeowners covers that, and that's a penalty for me, and I'm a victim here.
So is she.
Crossed over.
Just a second. So is she.
I understand.
If I am to believe her, and I believe her, so is she.
I understand.
So what I think you have to do is go through your homeowners, not Miss Bingham. She can't find the other driver. I mean, it would be different.
That's her responsibility.
No, sir. She is a victim of a hit and run. She has no way, unless it comes out of her pocket, of compensating you. She has no way, unless it's out of her pocket, of compensating you. She has insurance. You have no evidence to give me today as to why her insurance made a decision that they weren't responsible. You don't have that with you today, and it could very well be, as her insurance company determined, that this accident, while tragic, was not her fault. She was, in fact, a victim of a hit and run. You were a byproduct of that. So I'm telling you, go to your homeowners.
Well, let me understand correctly here.
What I'm telling you is, use your homeowners. That's what I would do.
That's you. I mean, that's a lot of other people would have a different decision. A lot of other people would bring it to small claims court and try to dispute that, and that's what.
Well, that's what you're doing, and I'm telling you that you should use your homeowners insurance because that's what it's for.
Typically, with car insurance, there's property coverage.
You don't have, sir. I'm not accepting your hearsay. You have to prove your case to me. You see, that's your burden. You have to prove your case. I have now made a decision that the accident was not caused by her. She was not
caused by her deciding to swerve into my property.
Are you trying to talk over me?
Just adding a little extra context to it.
It was not caused by substance abuse. It was not caused by speeding. There was no violation given to her. And according to you, she had insurance. So it's up to you to show me why
her insurance
no, not her policy, why you were told her insurance didn't cover it. You don't have that here. In the event that you give me a letter and the letter said she has liability for a certain amount, but it's not the $5,000 that you're alleging that it will cost to redo this. She only had $2,500. Well, then I would say to you, her insurance should kick in the $2,500, and I'm going to give you the other $2,500. You shouldn't be out of pocket. I would do that. If she determines to underinsure her liability so that she pays less in insurance, then that's on her.
The insurance company wouldn't disclose all of that to me.
They sent you a letter, and you don't have it.
A denial letter, and to
no,
reach out to them
that's what you're telling me. That's hearsay, sir.
Okay.
That's hearsay. It's not hearsay if you bring it in to show it to me.
Understood.
So what I'm telling you is this is an incident where, in my judgment, you have two innocent people who were both victims of an irresponsible driver. And if her insurance company, for some reason, and I don't know what it is, that's for her to take up with her insurance company. I don't know whether she's underinsured or whether they determined, after looking at the same things that I determined, that the accident wasn't her fault. So you can't tell me what they wrote because you didn't bring that letter. And we're talking about something that you got a month ago.
Understood.
Okay, good. Then you go through then go through your homeowners because your case is dismissed. We're done.
This court is adjourned.
The defendant says she chose to drive into my house instead of hitting another car. Both are equally as dangerous, and that cost me.
I didn't want to hit 5 or 6 other cars, so I just did what I thought was best.
You know, I found out because it's a very public street. Many people know that community, so people reached out.
It was just everything happened so fast. I can't explain the image. It was just like, I'm stuck. You know, my car just got stuck, and I was just like, hey, I'm just glad I didn't hurt anybody else.
Because they saw that it was a very horrible accident.
That's all. I was happy I was still here. Not the car, not the house, me. I'm glad I'm still here to go home my son.
No, the plaintiff really hurt himself with those photos of the defendant's car, and he didn't even notice. I don't think he even notices still. But she had no proof in front of her, no papers, no photos of what her car looked like, so she would have no way of showing that the accident was not her fault. But he proved that the accident was not her fault based on the photos of the car and just the situation in which her car got hit. But that's the reason that people have insurance. So I agreed with your sentiment about use it. That's its entire purpose. And I think that if he would have come in here and said, okay, I will put it through insurance, but I have a $5,000 deductible, I felt like you might have been more inclined to give him a portion of that, since neither of them were really at fault. They were both victims of a hit and run. But I would have respected that more if he had chosen to use his own homeowner's insurance as opposed to going after another victim. She wasn't at fault, and he knew that.
She really wasn't at fault. Yeah. She really wasn't at fault. And as we discussed a moment ago, the suggestion that she should have gone into the to the left where there was an oncoming traffic rather than veering to the right and hit something that was a stationary object.
It was definitely the safer option. And in that second moment, she was lucky that she made that decision. You never know. Someone else could have lost their life.
Right.
Case 2153, Fawless versus Mixenbach. All parties, please step forward.
Elizabeth Fawless is suing her former friend, Christy Masenbach, for 2 kayaks and an assault.
Miss Fawless, it is your claim you and the defendant were friends, been friends for a while.
Yes.
Your allegations are twofold. First, you say that the defendant assaulted you after a party.
Yes.
You weren't injured as a result of that assault. You didn't seek medical attention, but you said you had some scratches and that she hit you.
Yes.
Okay.
So she was on top of me. I was scratching, hitting, pulling, trying to just get away. I don't think she really remembers everything, and it just happened so fast. But I was finally able to leave and get out the home with my daughter safely.
Okay, bad behavior.
I agree.
Bad behavior?
Elizabeth Fawless claims her former friend, Christy Masenbach, owes for 2 kayaks and an assault.
There was no medical treatment. There was some drinking that went on that night.
Yes.
But the thrust of your complaint is that you gave the defendant 2 kayaks that you had purchased.
Correct.
Because the defendant has a piece of property and you didn't have a place to store them, and you asked if you could store them at the defendant's home.
Correct.
She said yes. You're no longer friends after this kerfuffle that took place after a party, and you would like the 2 kayaks back.
Correct.
When did you purchase them?
I bought them on April 29, 2020.
From whom?
This lady and her mother were selling them on Facebook Marketplace. They were moving out of state, and her mom couldn't take them with her. So I have the messages of those 2, but I bought them on Facebook.
And how much did you pay?
$320, or $350, sorry.
For both of them or each?
For both of them.
And when did you begin storing them at the defendant's?
I brought them over the next day after I bought them because I live in an upstairs apartment. I had nowhere to keep them. So she has a house that she lives in, so it was a better situation for them.
Where are you living now?
I still live in an upstairs apartment.
Where are you going to put the kayaks?
I was planning on storage or maybe find a family member who has a home to take them to. But to basically probably buy a storage.
That's pretty expensive to keep them in storage. If you paid $350 for the two of them 2 years ago. Have you used them in 2 years?
I bought them this year, this April 2022.
Oh, 2022.
Sorry, yeah, 22.
Okay. Have you used them?
Yeah, I use them often with my daughter. She's 5 and autistic.
Have you used them with the defendant?
No.
Have you used the kayaks?
Personally, I have not yet. I haven't had the chance to.
Just to say, you have not?
I have not yet, no.
Okay, you acknowledge the fact that the plaintiff, who was then your friend, brought them over for you to store. You're not friends anymore. She wants them back. Why not?
So I would like to kind of go back to the beginning where like the assault happens, just so that you can kind of understand.
I'll get to this.
Okay.
The assault is not the important part of this case.
Okay. So the kayaks, originally, it was a deal that if I was to keep them at my house, that we could both use them. When she wanted them back, I just didn't necessarily feel like that was fair because the original agreement was that they were kind of almost both ours. I just didn't have the opportunity to use them yet.
Okay. All right. Well, now you're not friends anymore. Now she wants them back. So she's going to pick up the kayaks within 5 days. If you don't pick them up within 5 days, you're out of luck. Do you understand?
I understand.
Okay, good. So within 5 days from today's date, we'll prepare an order. You can pick up the kayaks. Now, you want to proceed with the assault part of your case?
Yes.
Okay. Show me pictures of what the injuries were that you sustained.
I don't have any photos. I had a different phone at the time, and...
Just a second, so you don't have any photos. Do you have any medical reports?
I don't.
Okay. This alleged assault happened on what date?
It was August 17th, 2022.
Were you both out that night, or were you having a party in a house?
So what happened was her girlfriend had cheated on her, and they broke up, and she invited me and a couple other friends to the home where we were there. My daughter was also there, where we were hanging out, we were talking, trying to have a good time because she was having such a bad time. And I ended up falling asleep at some point. I went to go sleep with my daughter in the room. Everybody had left maybe around 12 a.m. And she came into the room wanting to talk, wanting someone to be there with her. But I was asleep. I'm not a very happy person to be woken up to. So I told her no, like we'll talk in the morning. She wasn't okay with that. She started getting mad, so she started getting upset, and my daughter was next to me, so I was like, well, then I'm gonna leave. And so I tried to walk out. She grabbed me, she threw me to the ground. She's stronger than me, so she was on top of me. I was scratching, hitting, pulling, trying to just get away. My daughter was screaming and crying. She's autistic, so she doesn't really understand what was going on, but she was highly upset. She was screaming no. And I was eventually able to like get up and try to leave. She followed me to the garage. I just tried to push and push and try to just get away from her, but I don't think she really remembers everything, and it just happened so fast. But I was finally able to leave and get out the home with my daughter safely.
Okay, good. Okay, bad behavior. Bad behavior.
I agree.
Bad behavior? Okay. I wish I had a photograph. Okay, within 5 days, pick up your kayaks. Are we done here?
Can I explain my end or no?
What?
Can I explain my end or no?
You did explain your end. You said you didn't think it was fair when she wanted her kayaks back because we were going to use them together. But now you're not going to use them together because you don't like each other anymore. So you're not going to use them together, so she's going to get them back.
Alrighty.
Great. Perfect. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
There was a lot more to the story than happened, but unfortunately, I guess the best outcome would be just to go ahead and give her back her kayak. So
It shouldn't have gone to this point. I should have got it back after the incident. For adults, it should have went way smoother.
there was a lot more insult that happened, like on both ends. It wasn't necessarily the whole full truth.
I think she's just going through a lot with whatever she's going on with her ex, and just I feel like it just got taken out on me.
Because we were like sisters before, and things just kind of, go south, and unfortunately, we lost our friendship over that. So
We've been friends since middle school, so I don't know what the future holds, but I hope maybe one day we can talk and we can work things out.
Only time will tell.
I think probably the only thing that bothered me in that case was what the 5-year-old was doing out at midnight at a party where people, you know, at a gathering where people were getting
A breakup party.
a
per se.
breakup party. Easy case.
Yeah.
Easy.
She paid for him.
To dishonor Robert Estrada for a deposit, lost wages, and a superhero costume.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case 2162, Newton versus Estrada.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Newton, you retained the services of Mr. Estrada to make you a costume.
Yes, ma'am.
And it was, according to your complaint, you make a living as an influencer?
Yes, ma'am. I produce
Okay.
content.
Now, Sarah has actually tried to explain that to me, what that is. And I think the kindergarten version of what she told me was, you are on the internet and your idea is to get as many people to follow the things that you do in your life as possible. And you post on the internet your pictures doing whatever you're doing. And then when you have enough people, advertisers, people who make products, pay you to tout their products one way or another. And that's how you make a living.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
No problem. Anytime.
Okay. So you don't produce anything. You just being you.
Well, no, but I do own 3 companies, and one of them is a social media advertising company. So
Okay.
it's important to meet and mingle with as many people
No,
as possible.
I get that, but it's all to support your primary function.
Yes, ma'am.
As we had a case years and years ago. It was one of my favorites. It was a guy who was being supported by a woman. And quite frankly, I couldn't see what this perfectly delightful, productive woman, what she saw in this guy. But I said, she gives you this, she pays your rent, she pays for your food. What does she get in return? And I'll never forget his answer. He said, she gets a me. So I don't know why that came to mind when you're talking about being an influencer. What do you, how does that happen? Anyway, you asked Mr. Estrada to do a costume for you. You like to go to events. I don't have to hear all about it. I sort of understand it a little bit now. You contracted with him to make this costume for you for $1,000. You paid him a $500 deposit. He delivered the costume, albeit he delivered it a little late, but you accepted it, and then you didn't pay him for it because you say it was not made well.
Yes.
And you have the costume now.
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay. In addition to the costume, you gave him another costume that you wanted him to just put another applique on of something. It was a relatively minor thing.
Glue something.
Whatever. You asked him to do something. It was work. He's not your brother, uncle, father. You're not related to him. That's his business. And when you refuse to pay him the balance of the costume that he made for you, he has the other costume, and he says, when you pay me, you can get your costume back. Am I clear?
Yes, but we have talked about creating multiple different costumes in the future, and every single time there was a dollar amount mentioned. This was never discussed. Okay. You discuss it prior, but that was never discussed.
Well, that's true. And whose fault is that?
It was never brought up. But
No. Whose fault is that?
I assume...
No, just a second. If the complaint about the costume that he was just supposed to put an applique on of some sort of a creature, a spider or something, if you gave it to him, and this is his business, then you say, how much is it? So I'm just letting you foment that in your head, sir. When did you order this costume from him for $1,000?
August 7th.
And he delivered it in October.
October 8th, I believe.
And what was wrong with it?
Many things.
Just say you have it with you.
I have every single bit of the costume with me.
I'd like to see it.
You like one piece at a time?
No, just a second. That's a boot. What else?
This glove.
Just a second, that's a glove.
Yes.
Okay.
And he actually has plenty of pictures that he sent me in the chat that he was actually making the glove himself. This comes from a costume store from the main movie that this comes from.
Okay,
and it came out in 2005. He sold me a glove that was almost 20 years old, and he said he was making me one.
Okay, keep going.
And this belt right here, I only tried it on once to see how everything fit, and by the time I tried to take the belt off and on, it broke between 20 minutes of use. in the house, just testing it out in the mirror.
I just want to see that. I see boots. I see a glove.
Right there.
Looks perfectly normal to me. And that's put on with Velcro.
Yes.
No big deal. You put on another piece of Velcro. That's a substantial belt. Put it back. What's your next complaint?
Well, number one, not only did
Just a second. I don't want to see the glove anymore. I saw the glove. I saw the boot. I saw the belt.
Well,
Where's
you're
the rest of the costume?
Here's the other boot.
Just a second. Hey, where's the rest of the costume?
We don't have a mannequin or something we could put this on? We don't have a mannequin or something we could put this on?
We could put it on him. Put it on him. Ask him to put it on. I want to see what's wrong with it. It's a costume. Listen to me. I'm not hearing you anymore.
I don't think you're being very fair.
It's not a popularity contest, sir. You bought something. I bought many
also
things.
principle involved,
This is not.
which is
this
why
is
I
not.
decided to
This
take
is
this
not.
report.
This is not.
Principle.
You're out. Goodbye.
And later today,
So you were there for a little less than 12 hours, right? You came at 5 o'clock in the afternoon,
On
and
the
at
11th.
4:30, and at 4:30 in the morning, you left.
I didn't actually leave. I was told to leave.
But you left.
Cade Newton claims costume designer Robert Estrada sent him a poorly made superhero costume. Robert is countersuing for the balance owed on the costume.
Okay, now, would you do me a favor? Just put the belt on. I know that you can't use the Velcro because a piece of the Velcro came off. Put the belt around. I just want to see how the belt's supposed to go.
For the record, it doesn't go like
Just a
this.
second. I didn't ask you anything. I just said put it on. No, you have.
It's actually really difficult with this robe on.
Now turn around. Oh, okay. Very good. Now you can take all the show and tell away, and you can take it off.
Your Honor, if I could say something.
You don't have to say anything. I've seen the costume for which he wanted to charge you $1,000.
Well, there's still more.
Yeah, but you don't want to put that on now, because
No,
you don't have to
it's
put
not
that on
something
again.
you have to put on. We're looking at the showmanship. This should be one continuous piece.
Mr. Newton, get a life. Get a life. Get rid of that stuff. Put it over there on that chair. This is not a $25,000 costume. It's a $1,000 costume. If you go into a store to buy any costume, without boots, without leather glove, it's a couple of $100. Not made. And if you don't like the way it was made, don't use the services again. According to what I read, you have lots of costumes.
I have two. The one there and the one that he brought of my possession.
Oh, okay, so you just have two costumes.
Yeah.
Great, now you have two. Now you pay him $500 for the costume that he made for you. That's the balance that you owe him for the costume. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the...
I'm not accepting the costume because it's
Just a
not
second.
up to my...
That's why you're in court, sir. I don't care whether you like it or not. Don't use his services again. He made it. You bought it. Based upon my view of that, it may not be perfect.
I paid for it to be perfect. That's
Just a
the reason
second.
why I bought
Just
it.
a second. I like a lot of things perfect, sir.
There's a reason why I bought it.
Life is not perfect. You're going to pay him for the costume.
I paid for
No,
perfection.
you're going to pay him for the costume. That's it. That's why you're here, for me to make a judgment. If I looked at this thing and didn't think that, for instance, when you sent him those boots, were the soles falling off the boots?
No, there will not.
I didn't think so. That's for my benefit. He's going to pay you the $500 that he owes you for the costume.
The belt wasn't.
And then he bought it.
The belt wasn't falling apart either, but one use, and within 20 minutes of trying it on, and voila.
Just a second, Mr. Newton. I'm done with that. I'm on to the next gig. I'm on to your other costume that he was supposed to put an applique on. You have that costume?
I do.
Very good. Now, I want to tell you something. He didn't send those boots with soles off.
They don't fall off by
Just a
themselves.
Just a second. No, they don't fall off by themselves.
And I didn't wear it anywhere.
I don't care whether you wore it anywhere, and I know they don't fall off by themselves, and he didn't send them that way. So you figure out, let the people out here figure out what's in my head, how the soles came off both of those shoes.
You can tell me why one piece of the costume has a bigger arm than the other.
Listen to me. I'm not hearing you anymore.
I don't think you're being very fair.
Listen.
Just to be fair. I'm a big fan of you, but I don't think you're very fair right now.
It's not a popularity contest, sir. You bought something. I bought many things. This is not.
Which is why I decided to take this to court.
This is not. You're out. You're gone. Goodbye. Your case is dismissed. Do you want your costume back?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. How much was it to put the applique on it?
It was $100.
$100. Very good. Judgment on the counterclaim, $600. He gets the costume back.
Yes.
You understand?
Completely.
We're done.
Thank you.
Court is adjourned.
I paid a pretty penny for something that was just fabric and boots.
I tried to explain how the costume works, and unfortunately, he didn't really listen. He doesn't listen.
It's one of my favorite things of all time. I've always wanted it.
Well, I gave him what he wanted, but when I delivered it, he actually didn't take the time to hear me tell him how the suit goes on.
So what do you think the likelihood is that the defendant shipped those boots with the soles the way we saw them in court today?
0.
I totally agree. I think that the plaintiff thought it would help his case to have a little bit more destroyed of a costume than
drama.
Maybe it was, and doesn't look good for him.
Actually, I thought that what was sent, the boots were substantial. There's no question that he dislodged the soles from them before he came here. The belt was a really substantial belt. What he was complaining about was a piece of Velcro.
And it's a costume belt. Velcro comes off. The clasps
and you
come
put it back
undone.
on.
You just super glue it back on.
Absolutely right. There was clearly $1,000 worth of work that went into that costume and putting it together with the boots and the belt and the glove. And it was really sort of outrageous that he didn't pay it. Anyway, made my life easy, besides the fact that he was a nudnik.
Case 2135, Coleman versus Washington. All parties, please step forward.
Koana Coleman is suing caretaker Jessica Washington for stolen money, travel costs, and elder abuse.
Miss Coleman, how old is your mother?
90.
Do you live with her?
I do.
How long have you been living with her?
3 years.
You're her primary caretaker?
Yes, ma'am.
She suffers from?
Dementia.
For how long?
I identified it in December of 2019. And I just stayed from that point on, sleeping on her couch.
At some point, you had to go out of town for a period of time.
Yes.
You hired the defendant?
Yes, ma'am.
How did you get to her?
My cousin Andrea was friends with her, and she said that she would be a great candidate.
Did you interview her?
I spoke with her later on. She came by the house, and...
What date did you first speak to her?
Maybe about a day or two before I left.
And on what date did you leave?
The 11th of August.
How long were you going to be away for?
About 7 days.
And tell me, Miss Washington, are you employed now?
Yes, I am.
By whom?
Well, I do self-employment, and I also have my own little business on the side as well, you know, caring for elderly people.
Okay. Did you have any special training for the care of the elderly?
I got my AED and my CPR. No, not really, because basically I've been just dealing with family members.
For how long?
I'm gonna say at least like 5 years.
And you had no special training for the care of the elderly? Okay, and did you explain that to the plaintiff?
She knew that.
Don't tell me what she knew. I didn't ask you what she knew. You left, and when you left, you took the $400 that you found.
Because the mother told me to.
You mean the mother with dementia and Alzheimer's who you stayed up with 4:30 in the morning told you to take the $400? Uh-huh.
Koana Coleman claims caretaker Jessica Washington stole money from her mother, who suffers from dementia.
Okay. On what day were you supposed to report to take care of her mother?
August 11th.
Did you?
Yes, I did.
Who was there?
It was Miss Coleman and her mother.
And the arrangement that you made with her was for 7 days, and you would be living with her mother.
For 7 days.
And what was she to pay you for the 7 days?
We never discussed a payment.
Well, this is what you were doing for a living, and you had jobs for the last 5 years. Is not an answer. Yes is the answer. And when you work for other people who you'll tell me about, what did you charge them?
I didn't really charge them anything. That's why I'm saying me and her never discussed a price, because she didn't know if I was going to charge her or not. because I could have watched her mother for nothing, just because. That's family.
Okay, well, this is what the case is about. You watched her mother for one day, and then you left. And according to her, her mother fell. When you left, after the one day, she had left $400, and you took the $400. That's what she says when you left. Your answer is that you earned that $400 in the one day. That's why you took it. You have a counterclaim because she has said to someone that what you did amounted to elder abuse. Now, you started on the 11th. Tell me when you left.
The date that I left was August 12th at 4:30 in the morning because I was put out.
Who put you out?
Her cousin Andrea, which is my godmother, because I called her to help me pick her mother up off the floor, which her cousin told me to leave.
No, you can't tell me what anybody else told you. Prior to 4:30 on the 12th, did Miss Coleman's mother suffer a fall?
Yes, she did.
Okay. And where did she fall?
She fell on the floor. She was sitting at the table where I was sitting at as well, too. I got up to use the bathroom.
At 4:30 in the morning?
We was up all night.
Could you tell me why?
Because she was waiting for her daughter to come back, because before her daughter left out the house, being as though that the lady has dementia and Alzheimer's, they think about the future, the past, and the present. She's thinking that her daughter is coming back because her daughter said, I will be right back. So that's why she sat up all night long. I was trying to put her to bed. She didn't want to go to bed, so I called.
Okay, so you were there from what time in the morning on the 11th?
I got there at 5 o'clock in the afternoon on the 11th.
So you were there for a little less than 12 hours, right? You came at 5 o'clock in the afternoon,
on
and
the
at
11th.
4:30, and at 4:30 in the morning, you left.
I didn't actually leave. I was told to leave.
But you left.
Yeah, and I didn't want to.
I don't care whether you wanted to or not. It's not particularly relevant whether you wanted to or not. I understand what happened. You left, and when you left, you took the $400 that you found.
Because the mother told me to.
You mean the mother with dementia and Alzheimer's?
Yes, her mother told me to.
Just a second. You mean the mother with dementia and Alzheimer's who you stayed up with 4:30 in the morning told you to take the $400? Okay. Now, you're suing her for a lot more than the $400 because she said you had to come home from your travel. She's not responsible for that. She has to return the $400 to you. You told me 2 minutes ago, Miss Washington, that you never discussed fee.
We did.
Because this is not a question and answer. You didn't even know whether you were going to charge her anything, because as far as you were concerned, it's family. Is not an answer. And you listened to the woman that you had been hired to care for because she has dementia and Alzheimer's and had fallen, and she said to you, take this $400, it's yours. What if she told you to take a piece of her jewelry? Would you have taken that?
No.
Yeah. You would have taken it because she gave it to you.
Because I'm not no thief. I wouldn't.
No, that's not what I'm telling you. You say that you took this $400 because this woman who can't make a judgment told you to take it. What if she said to you, I want you to have my pearls? Why not?
I'm not taking no jury because I have my own. I don't need her jury.
Okay, that's ridiculous. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $400. I'll take a look at the instance that you have on your counterclaim for slander when she says that you are guilty of elder abuse. What do you have to show me?
It's in a court order.
What do you mean it was in a court order?
It is. She went and filed elder's abuse on me, plus the traveling expenses, too. I have that court order.
Just a second. Is that what you're telling me? In her case against you for the $400 and for any other travel expenses, which I'm dismissing, that part of her claim, she said you were guilty of elder abuse. That's protected. Okay, your counterclaim's dismissed. We're done.
Court is adjourned.
I think the judge did a great job. I assumed that she would be able to deal with my mother. It's difficult being a caregiver, and we as people need to do much more to protect our elderly.
We've seen a couple of these cases, and it's so unfortunate to see the elderly, and whether they're ill or sick or mentally not capable of caring for themselves anymore, zero training that some of these people have to really care for them. And it's scary. We've seen it too many times. And $400 on the counter to someone to just take it for 12 hours worth of work.
You know, it's always struck me as a shame that society has and the government has created situations where you need licenses to do certain things. You need a license to tweeze someone's eyebrows. You have to be a cosmetologist. You have to have a license. You have to go to school. You have to pass an exam. You need a license to have a dog. But the most vulnerable people in the population, those people who, as she said, she didn't know whether her daughter was coming back or not coming back. She said she'd be right back, so she was waiting up for her. That vulnerable person, when it worked to the defendant's advantage, said, well, she was perfectly capable of saying to me,
take the money.
Take the money.
Melissa Duran is suing her former property manager, Tracy Shaw, for wrongful eviction and an assault.
Court come to order. All rise.
Be seated, please.
Case 2097, Duran versus Shaw.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Duran, the defendant is the property manager at a place where you used to live.
Yes.
And you are suing her for evicting you from that place. You want a whole bunch of money. You're suing her for $10,000 for your moving expenses, for assault, for emotional distress because you had to move. Ms. Shaw says that your behavior caused you to be evicted. You violated the rules, and that's why you were served notice of eviction. So first, let me know when you started living at the property that is managed by the defendant.
In 2018.
Did you have a lease?
Yes, I did.
Do you have a copy of that lease with you?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to take a look at it. Okay, so this initial lease was August of 2019, and it terminated on July 31st, 2020. It provided for 3 people to live in the apartment. Okay, and was the lease renewed?
Nope.
Okay, and so then you became a month-to-month tenant?
Yes.
And that was in February of 2020?
They also increased the rent.
That's okay. They're allowed to do that. That's a business.
No, I know.
They're allowed to do that. When your lease was extended on a month-to-month basis after February of 2020, would you tell me if the same people lived in the apartment as were on the original lease?
No.
So more people moved in?
Yes.
Who?
That would be my sisters and my mother.
Sisters?
Yes.
2 sisters?
Yes.
And when did they move in?
Maybe about, maybe 2020, maybe. Couldn't really be positive.
So that would have been in violation of your original lease?
Yes.
And it was an apartment that you were renting? And the apartment complex has a pool?
Yes, it does.
And the incident around, circumstances surrounding this eviction that was served on you, that happened in what month and year?
It was in June of this year.
How long, Ms. Shaw, have you been the property manager?
Since the end of November of last year.
November of 2021?
Yes.
And in November of 2021, did you know that there were additional people living in the house?
Yes.
And didn't tell her that they had to vacate, that it was in violation of the terms of her underlying lease?
I had that morning, actually, when the confrontation happened.
No, I'm talking about, pay attention. My question was, did you register any complaint with the plaintiff about the additional people living? And be very careful that you tell me the truth, because I know that you think you may know where I'm going, but you don't. Did you make any complaint to her November, December, January, February, March, April, or May? The answer is either yes or no about the other people living in the house.
No.
So I guess I'm going to start with you, because an incident occurred that resulted in her being evicted, that you're serving her with a notice of eviction.
Right.
Tell me when that took place, because I have to know what your reason was. That's a fair statement.
Yes. Right.
Okay.
So in June 22, like I said, that morning I had served them.
What
that
morning?
week. June 21st or something, I believe.
What kind of letter were you serving on her?
I just gave them, mine is, it's just a complaint notice, you know, saying that.
Do you have a copy of that? Do you know what she's talking about?
Yes, I have a copy.
I'd like to see it.
There you go.
Okay, well, this is a letter that says you and your company were eating and drinking in the pool area. Even after I told them to stop, that it wasn't allowed, they did not stop. And there is absolutely no eating or drinking in the pool area. Okay, so that's the letter she served to you. And that was on June 21st.
That's the letter she
Now, who was eating and drinking in the pool?
That would be my sister.
That wasn't just your sister.
No, it was her and her friend.
No, just a second. Let's get it together. So your sister, who wasn't supposed to be there, but they sort of let that skate.
Oh, well,
Who wasn't supposed to be there.
Okay.
Okay, so your sister and who else?
That would be my sister, her boyfriend, and 2 of her friends, or 3 of her friends, I think.
Had they ever been to the pool before?
My sister has, but not her friends.
So the person who wasn't supposed to be living with you, that's your sister,
Yes.
invited her boyfriend and 3 other friends to the pool.
She called and asked if it was okay first.
She asked you?
Yes.
And you said fine?
Yes.
You didn't call the manager?
No.
Okay. And you are aware that there's no eating and drinking in the pool?
That's not what it says on my lease.
Is that what it says at the pool?
Nope.
Does it say anywhere in the house rules?
Nope.
Nope, it's not an answer.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The answer is
No.
no.
No, ma'am, it is not.
No. Now, when you've been living there for a long time, do you use the pool?
Yes, I do.
Ever had any trouble in the time from November of last year? Ever had any complaint?
Nope.
Nope is
No,
not an
sorry,
answer.
sorry,
No
I'm
is
sorry.
the answer. No,
Yeah,
no
okay,
complaint.
no, sorry.
Okay. And did you discuss with your sister and her friends that there were any rules that she had to abide by?
No, I did not, because I was not home yet.
Stand up. First name is?
Aaliyah.
You were their boyfriend and 3 girlfriends. Any children?
No.
You know this lady?
Yes.
What happened when she came to tell you that there was no eating or drinking at the pool?
So we were standing.
Just what happened when she told you?
She came screaming at us, telling us that we needed to get the food out and that we needed to go.
Get the food out. What kind of food had you
It was
brought
just
in?
pizza and like a soda and water.
So it wasn't a piece of fruit. You were having a meal there, pizza and food. Had you ever seen your sister bring food into the pool area?
Snacks, yeah.
Yeah. I'm not talking about snacks. Did she ever bring food into the pool area?
No.
What prompted you to order food into the pool area?
It was a hot day and we were hungry and I'm not sure.
You asked your sister if it was okay if you and your friends came.
Yes.
Since you never saw anybody, because usually there are signs posted around a pool. I've lived in enough places to know, and the pool signs usually say no jumping in the pool, no food or drink around the pool, right?
Yes.
Most pools say that.
Yes.
Did this pool say that?
It just said, like you said, no jumping in the pool, no diving, to come into the pool, but it never said nothing about food, drinks, nothing like that.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. So now you please establish to me, Miss Shaw, that there was notice that there was no food and drink at the pool.
Their pool addendum.
May I see?
And then also no guest addendum.
Just a second.
It's all part of their...
Hold on. You're Melissa Duran.
Yes, I am.
And that's your signature?
Yes.
Yes. The pool is reserved exclusively for the use of residents of the building. That's what it says.
Okay.
That's what you signed. No diving in the pool area, no intoxicated persons. Okay. I just want you to show me here, first of all, the only thing that they are violating is that pool is reserved exclusively for the residents of the building. That's in here, but I don't see anything about food.
The new pool addendum wasn't part of their contract. So when we put out the new one, it was for more updated tenants, but we didn't serve them on the food, we served them on the guests.
Is what you're saying to me, the only thing that she signed is this, and there is no sign around the pool that says no eating or drinking?
There is a sign by the pool.
Do you have a copy of it?
I don't have a copy of that.
Why not?
I texted her that I was sorry that they had food in the pool, and I did not know that.
So that you knew they weren't supposed to have food in the pool?
Yeah, but I didn't know they bring it.
Just a second. That's not what I asked you.
Melissa Duran claims her former property manager, Tracy Shaw, owes for a wrongful eviction and an assault.
Okay, go ahead.
Because she had moved in prior to them changing the pool addendum, I posted the new pool addendum on all of the doors, and I have actually text messages of Melissa asking me, can we, the no floaties? And I said, well, of course,
May I?
For children and whatnot, but not big floaties. Okay. So she was acknowledging the pool addendum that I had.
That I'll see. Now, she's going to show me your text messages to her.
Yes.
So you received the revised pool rules?
Yes.
And did the new pool rules say anything about guests?
No, it did not.
So if it said nothing about guests, your original lease said that the pool is specifically reserved for residents of the complex.
Yes.
And according to you, the new pool rules, do they talk about having floaties in the pool?
Yes, it did.
Did it talk about having guests at the pool?
Yeah, actually it did.
And what did it say?
There was no problem, just like on the original lease. It was
No.
fine to have guests in the pool.
No, that's not what this says. This says that the pool is reserved for residents of the building only.
Well, we were already told before that it was fine to have guests.
This is the contract that you signed.
Yes, I understand.
So this is the first one that you signed, this one.
Mm-hmm.
And absent anything else, this says no guests at the pool. This says residents only.
Okay.
You say that it was the new rules allow you to have guests, or were they silent?
There was nothing on there saying that you cannot have guests. It was mainly just saying that you cannot have floaties, you cannot jump or run into the pool.
Just a second. Did it say anything about food?
No.
Is there a new sign posted around the pool that talks about food?
No, it does
All I
not.
want to see is, Miss Shaw, something in the new rules that talks about food. And I'm getting very bored with this. Now, when Miss Shaw came over and told you you couldn't have food, you had to get rid of the food, about what time was that?
Probably like 5, 6, I'm not exactly too sure.
And when had this food and stuff arrived? Was it?
We brought it. We were coming in with the food. We walked in with the food. I'm pretty sure
Just
she's
a
seen
second.
this.
So you and your group, 5 people, walked in with dinner to the pool area. And did the dinner include any alcoholic beverages
No.
like beer?
No.
What kind of drinks were there?
It was Pepsi. It was soda.
And what happened when Miss Shaw came over and told you you weren't allowed to have the food at the pool?
She came very aggressively.
She came aggressively and she said you're not allowed.
She stormed out and screamed, get the food out and you guys need to leave.
And so what did you do?
I told her, okay, I'd get the food out, and I made a call to my sister to come help me with the food. And as we were packaging...
Where was your sister?
She was upstairs.
So when you came out with the food, you came out of the apartment?
No, we had just gotten there. We were coming from another pool area that wasn't
What other
open.
pool area?
My boyfriend's friend. We were going to swim at his pool, but it wasn't available because there was too many people there.
Were you at your boyfriend's house during the day?
No, I was at school, and they were all at work, so we all just met up after everything.
Okay, so you were asked by Miss Shaw to get the food out, and then you called your sister.
Yes, and I told her.
And then what happened?
And I told her if she could come get the food while we swam, or if not, that we were
Why
going to
didn't
leave.
you just get out?
Well, because I was trying to help, because we were splitting the check through it, the money, so we're splitting the pizza, who's getting what, and all of that. And before we even could leave, she stormed out again, screaming, saying, you guys are getting a notice, you guys are getting a notice, and running up the stairs to her, because she was coming out, and she was hey, what's going on? And then she was like, you guys are getting a notice. I'm tired of everybody not listening and coming to me with your problems. And then my sister was like, whoa, hey, relax. I'm coming to get the food. And then she threw the paper and my sister backed up
Okay,
she
so what,
went
so the
aggressive.
letter, she gave your sister the letter.
It was a notice.
She gave you the paper that said, this is a complaint. There are people in the pool who are eating, drinking. They don't belong here. They're not, whatever. She said, here's your notice.
Yes.
Okay. And that was on the 21st of June. Then what happened?
Well, after she threw the paper at me, she turned back around, still yelling, and she stomped down the stairs, and I'm trying to tell her, you didn't give me time to come and get the food. And she ran back in her apartment and slammed her door.
And she went back to her apartment, and you went where?
Back into my house.
Okay, you went back into your house. And what did you do when you went back into your house?
When I got back there, I texted her, telling her that I was sorry that they had food in the pool, and I did not know that because I did not know at the time.
Just a second. So, Ms. Duran, let's cut to the chase, so that you knew they weren't supposed to have food in the pool, only snacks.
Yeah, but I didn't know they bring it.
Just a second. That's not what I asked you.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You knew that there was no food in the pool, only water and snacks.
Okay, yes.
So you knew that.
Okay, yes.
Okay. Now, if you know that, and you have given, I'm just telling you what the law is.
Mm-hmm.
If you know that there is a rule, and you don't convey that, that's your problem, okay?
Okay.
All right, so that's June 21st, when guests that you agreed to have in the pool, you didn't know that there was food there. You knew that there wasn't supposed to be food there. That knowledge is imparted to your guests. That's a legal assumption. I want to know what happened after June 21st. When were you served with a 3-day notice to quit?
I believe it was on the 24th.
I'd like to see it.
Okay. I have 3 of the same. They sent me 3 of them.
I just have to see one. Did the attorney, who you say you gave by a cash app, return any of the money? Okay, well, you served this 3-day notice to quit, Ms. Shaw, and in it, you're alleging threatens to commit a crime. So I assume that the person, it talks about a statement, threatens to commit a crime. I assume that the threat was directed to you. Yes. In any event, you were given a 3-day notice to quit, but actually you managed to get that extended to 30 days.
Yes.
And one of the things that you had to do was to hire an attorney.
Yes.
And when you hired an attorney, did you hire an attorney and pay a retainer?
Oh, yes, I did.
Okay. I'd like to see proof of what you paid the attorney.
I don't think I bring the one that pertained to the lawyer. What I do have is him finding out what the criminal act was.
No. You're a month-to-month tenant.
Yes.
Landlord has a right to give you a 30-day notice and say you have to quit the premises. You have no legal right to be there. My only question is you were not given 30 days notice. You were given a 3-day notice, and I'm not actually convinced that there was a basis to give you a 3-day notice. If I called him, would he tell me that you paid him $1,200?
Yes, he would. Though I still owe him $250.
So you paid him $950.
Okay, okay.
What do you mean, okay?
Melissa Duran has accused her former property manager, Tracy Shaw, of wrongfully evicting her. Tracy claims Melissa was violating apartment rules.
Now, if you got 30 days, and the reason you got 30 days is because you retained an attorney, I'm prepared to look to see how much you paid the attorney, because that's an expense that you have that you wouldn't have had but for the 3-day notice to quit. They're entitled to tell you to leave. I mean, You're there with too many people living in the apartment. They've already had a kerfuffle because you allowed your sister and her boyfriend and friends to come to the pool. They were told no food. They ignored them. But I don't think any of that rises to the level of grounds to give you a 3-day notice to quit. I think that if they want to tell you that you have to be out in 30 days, that's reasonable, but they didn't. They gave you a 3-day notice forcing you to hire an attorney. I'm prepared to give you the attorney's fees if you prove to me that you paid an attorney.
I do have proof of that, but I do not have it with me.
Okay. And how much did you pay him? That's an easy thing for me to verify.
I believe it was $1,200.
I want you to think about it carefully.
No, it was $1,200 because he had lowered it. He lowered it from $1,400 to $1,200.
And you paid him by check or cash?
I paid him in Cash App is the only way I could.
Did he go to court with you?
We haven't, this is the first court we have been to.
So how did he get you 30 days?
Because I got the 3-day notice and it kept saying I committed a criminal act.
Okay,
So that was the reason why I obtained the lawyer, so he can find out what the criminal act was.
And just by phone calls, he got them to extend it to 30 days. So you were never in, and you left after the 30 days.
I left before the 30. I left on August 1st.
Okay. And where did you go?
I had to move all the way to Atwater, California.
Is that where you live now?
Yes, it is.
And who lives with you?
My husband and my young son. That's it, just the 3 of us. We moved into a smaller, more expensive place.
Okay, and you left your sisters?
And my mother.
And your mother.
They are somewhere completely different.
Okay, what do you...
This is in their lease about disturbances and threats.
Listen, I've already made a determination that the 3-day notice should have been a 30-day notice to leave. I don't think that anything that I've heard today rises to the level of giving people who've been in the apartment as long as they had, especially over pizza, requires a 3-day notice. So the only question that I'm entertaining on behalf of the plaintiff and the only monetary award that I'm going to contemplate are attorney's fees. Did the attorney, who you say you gave by a cash app, return any of the money since he never had to go to court for you?
No, he did not.
Just a second. If I called him right now, would he tell me that you paid him $1,200?
Yes, he would. Yes, he would. Though what I was going to tell you is that I did not have enough to pay him completely. I still owe him $250.
So you didn't pay him. So you paid him $950.
Okay, okay. I'm sorry.
What do you mean,
I
okay?
didn't. No, I mean, I'm sorry, I didn't.
So you paid him $950?
Yes.
I'm awarding you $950, which are your attorney's fees, for the reason that, I'm speaking, for the reasons that I've stated, because they have an absolute right to give you a 30-day notice, tell you to leave, and there was a basis for it, actually. And you know, there was a basis for saying your guests, which is you, are not abiding by the rules. You're a month-to-month tenant. Right now, we do not intend to keep you as a tenant. We're giving you 30 days notice to find another place. I think that would have been absolutely a problem. Speaking would have been absolutely appropriate. I think a 3-day notice to quit was inappropriate given the level of infraction. So I'm awarding you the counsel fees because that's what it took to get you your 30 days. This case is over. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
I'm disappointed in the decision.
Her actions of her aggression, throwing something in my face, that was a little bit excessive.
I don't feel that I got to say more of the story that continued to happen.
Her actions caused me to get evicted in 3 days.
They have bad character, and so I don't think that I owed them anything.
I mean, I didn't think anything like what come to this, you know.
I'm just glad they're gone.
I'm happy to be out because I just really wanted her to be held responsible for what she did.
So a trend I've seen a lot here is plaintiffs suing for wrongful eviction when they're a month-to-month tenant. And for what I've learned in landlord-tenant law in New York, I know it varies a lot from state to state, is the landlord only has to give you as much notice as your term, which if you're a month-to-month tenant would be 30 days. So people have to really understand the legalese of their contract and of their lease, because if you feel like you're being wrongfully evicted as a month-to-month tenant, that's a different standard than if you have a standard year-long written lease.
Well, that's sort of the reason. I didn't think that the one instance that was raised was sufficient to give them a 3-day emergency notice to quit. Might have been enough, that coupled by the fact that there were too many people living in the apartment, to give them a 30-day notice. That is, you're right, it's your property. But I didn't think it rose to the level of a 3-day notice to quit for threats.
I didn't either, so I agreed with your $950 judgment for the attorney's fees.
Would have been happier if she had some sort of a receipt or something from her Cash App, because she very quickly changed the $1,200 to $950.
She was honest.
Is suing her niece, Janelle Laws, and her stepdaughter, Ari Scales, for the costs of a car.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2130, Laws versus Law, Scales.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Laws, this young woman is your niece.
Yes.
And this young lady is the ward of your niece.
Yes.
You have guardianship over her. Is she related to you?
No, she's related to my wife.
Okay. But you have guardianship.
We both do.
How old are you?
I'm 21.
You had an automobile.
Yes.
It was an automobile that you allowed your niece to use, and it was at her house.
Yes.
That was in September of 2020. Her car was in the shop, whatever. Anyway, your niece went out of town for a while?
Yes.
Do you remember what date that was?
October 17th of 2020.
And prior to your going out of town, had Miss Scales ever driven the car?
No.
Had you ever given her permission to drive the car?
No.
Now, Miss Scales, there did come a time in October of 2020 that you took the car.
Yes.
Tell me how you managed to get a hold of the car.
So the keys, we have a key hook in the front of our house, and I just used the keys there.
Did you ask anyone?
No.
Tell me why.
I had a scare that I was afraid to do by myself.
What kind of scare?
A pregnancy scare.
Okay. So you took the car to go where?
To who I was dating at the time.
What time of the day did you take the car?
Between the times of 4 and 6 p.m.
And at what time did you have an accident with the car?
I would say between 7 and 8 p.m.
Had you already seen the boyfriend?
No.
Where were you between 7 and 8?
Driving.
Driving to who?
To the boyfriend.
Oh, so it takes a while to get there?
Yes.
How long?
About an hour.
In any event, you had an accident.
Yes.
The car was totaled. You had insurance?
Yes.
And had you told your niece that you had insurance on the car?
Yes.
Okay. Because she says that you had told her you had insurance on the car and you had a loan on the car. There was a note.
That's correct.
So when she borrowed the car, she knew it was insured. Did you also tell her that you had the gap insurance?
Yes.
And what year, make, and model of car was it?
A 2015 Mitsubishi Mirage.
Did you buy it new or used?
Brand new.
And how long was the loan on the car?
6 or 7 years. I think it was 6.
So by 2020, you had paid up most of the car.
Yes.
What was the balance left on the car?
I'm not exactly sure the exact balance that was left on the car.
Okay. How much did you pay for the car?
I paid $17,000. That's what it was financed at, so that's not with the finance charges.
Okay, so you paid $17,000. How much of a down payment did you put down?
I didn't put any money down on it.
So in 5 years between 2015 and 2017, you paid off about 80% of the car.
Yes.
What's the car worth now?
Based on 75,000 miles in good condition, I'm seeing between $5,500 and $7,500.
Okay. Now, after the accident, you put in a claim through your insurance.
Yes.
And your insurance covered how much?
The insurance paid out $7,379.
They wrote a check to the bank?
Yes, ma'am.
And can I see the paperwork on that, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Because what you're suing for now is another $8,496.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so your insurance also paid on the other car that you had the accident with. You had an accident with a Ford Focus?
Yes.
Okay, so they paid $2,900 on that, and they paid you $7,379.
Yes, ma'am.
And show me what the note balance was on the car at the time that they paid this out, which would have been sometime in 2020 or maybe 21.
You want the balance after they paid out or before they paid out?
Both.
Okay. This is after they paid out.
And before.
I don't have a copy of what it was owed on before the accident.
Oh, I need a whole payout because what your niece says is that they paid you the value of the car, which clearly it was the value of the car, because the value of the car, according to Sarah, is between $5,000 and $7,000. They paid you $7,379, which clearly covered a substantial part of your note.
Mm-hmm.
What the defendant is saying is that during COVID, for financial reasons, you had requested that the payments be put on hold.
Right.
And that you not make any payments on the car, and that the interest would continue to accrue.
Right.
And that's not her fault. You asked to have the payments put off, but you drove the car. You had the benefit of driving the car all during COVID.
Right.
And she shouldn't be penalized. The insurance company paid out what the car was worth. These additional charges are because you put off making the payments during COVID, and it also accrued that interest. That's your defense. Am I right?
Yes.
That I have to see.
Okay.
I don't want to hear it. I want to see it.
The paper that you have there, that's from, it shows that a payment was made on that car on September 4th, 2020, and that was the last payment that was made. So if there were no payments being made during that time that she had the car, it was.
That's not what I'm asking you. I'm asking you, when COVID started, did you
Yes.
put the payments on hold?
I did, because I was no longer working, so they gave me the option to delay my payment, which means they tack them on to the end.
And I understand that, but you were driving the car. You were driving the car. She's not going to pay for that.
She had the car from the beginning of September, and she was only supposed to have it for 3 days when her car got fixed.
It doesn't matter. First of all, you didn't bring me the documentation that I need. You didn't bring me what was actually owed on the car and what was owed on the car and how much was owed as a result of your deferring payments and interest.
When I did the stop payments on the car, it was before she even borrowed it.
Well, that may be, madam, but if what you're telling me is you started to pay again, you still drove the car when you deferred payments.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, well, that's not her responsibility.
But the balance that's left on the car, they paid what the value of the car was. They said that they don't pay finance charges. So there was a balance of 37.
Well, the finance charges were finance charges that accrued, and you don't have the paperwork for me here.
$3,700 worth of finance charge for 2 months?
No, that's not for 2 months. I don't know what the finance charges were for. It doesn't say that. You don't have the paperwork here. You don't have the right paperwork. So you have to understand something. What you're suing her for is $8,496. First of all, The car is only worth $5,000. You got $7,300 that the insurance company paid directly to the lender. And I don't have what you owed here before the accident. I don't have that, and the payments that you deferred. If you deferred payments prior to that time, that's your responsibility.
But I only deferred payments for 3 months. That's not going to
Just a
amount
second.
to $3,700.
I have no idea. You should have brought the paperwork. This is not that paperwork.
So I'm out of a whole car. Like, I've invested almost $10,000 into this car. I let her use the car, and
that's what your insurance for.
And now I'm just not out only the $3,700. Now it's been late charges and other charges on that, and now it's $6,000 that's on my credit.
You defer the payments. I can't tell how many months you deferred the payments. You said maybe I deferred it 3 payments. I don't know. You didn't bring me the paperwork.
I deferred.
You can't tell me.
If she would have never had the car, then I would have been responsible totally to pay all of that amount. It's cost me more than just this amount that's still on my credit.
She didn't do anything wrong so far. I mean, you have a 21-year-old girl who shouldn't have taken the car keys without permission.
And later today,
You write to her that you saw her take some stuff, and you say to her, so don't tell me you don't steal from me. Friends don't steal from friends, so I won't burn you for what I borrowed. You should think twice before you steal from, because I could say, I'm not giving you nothing.
Jennifer Laws claims her niece, Janelle Laws, and her stepdaughter, Ari Scales, owe the balance on her car after Ari totaled it in an accident.
She says you deferred the payments. That was the reason for these overages, which I can understand, because otherwise the insurance company, and if you had gap insurance, which you say you did, would have paid any gap between the loan.
My gap insurance was only until a certain amount of time, and then after that, the gap insurance only pays a certain amount.
I don't know any of that. What I need from you, you didn't bring. You brought only what was necessary to put forth your position. I need what was owed on the car, and for past due payments with accrued interest, and for current payments. And you don't have that. So far, all I know is you had full insurance on this car, and the full insurance was paid. And if there was a reason that the insurance company, for some reason, didn't pay an amount of money, I don't have an explanation of that here in what you gave me, except the explanation that she offers, which was during COVID, you deferred your payments and the interest was accruing, and that the insurance company was not going to pay because that was done prior to October.
That's not
2020.
That's not true. I deferred 1 or 2 payments.
Well, 2 minutes ago, was that 3 payments?
Because, ma'am, I'm sorry. Let me just explain that. During this time, April 2020, I lost my mother to COVID. So I had 2 cars. I had the pink car, and I had the car that I gave to my mom, which is a black car, which was also in my name, that I was responsible for. The car that I put the deferred payments on was the Kia Optima. That's the one that I put the deferred payments on. This car, I had a couple late payments, but I never stopped paying that car note.
I can't tell you. You don't have the paperwork. All that I can tell you is the insurance company paid everything that they were supposed to pay, including the gap insurance for this accident. So I can't help you.
Did not pay.
Listen to me. I'm not going to repeat myself. This doesn't tell me how much you owed prior to the accident and what it was for. And if it shows that all you owed currently prior to the accident, it had to show that that was $73.79 and it included the gap insurance. You may have had old finance fees that had nothing to do with her.
The gap insurance never paid.
I can't help you, madam. You don't have the right paperwork.
If she would have never had the car, then I would have been responsible totally to pay all of that amount. But because I don't have a car, it disrupted my life. It's cost me more than just this amount that's still on my credit.
She didn't do anything wrong so far. I mean, you have a 21-year-old girl who shouldn't have taken the car keys without permission. But the car was there, and it was there with your permission, and there's no question that the accident was her fault.
I have been asking her to return my car.
If you have the proof, the only thing I want you to show me is a document from your lender which says how much was owed at the time of the accident and for what. Do you have that?
I don't, because I didn't think that I needed it.
Okay, well, then I can't help you. Today's a court day. This is the day you have.
I have a ton of evidence here.
Madam, you don't have the evidence that I need. Your request for $9,000 for a $5,000 car in which you've already been paid $7,300 is ridiculous. So all I have to see is how much was deferred and the interest on the accrued that you deferred while you were using the car before she had it for this 5 or 6 weeks that she had it in September. If you have that, I'll look at it. If you don't have it, I'm not interested. Do you have
the paperwork that you have?
Well, then I'm going to give it back to you, and you're going to show me where it shows here in October of 2020 how much you owed on the car and how much were past payments and finance charges based on the last payments. You understand what you gave me? If I could make this as simple as possible for you, if you never loaned her the car, if you had the car for that 5-week period and you had an accident with the car during that 5-week period, you would be in the exact same position you are now. The company would have paid off what they paid and would not have paid off what you still owed them because you deferred payments. It doesn't matter who was driving the car.
And I do understand
okay,
that.
good.
And I
I'm
would
glad
be
you
responsible
understand. I'm glad you understand
stole
it.
my car.
I'm glad
She
you
never
understand that. Your case is dismissed. We're done.
This court is adjourned.
She needed to borrow my car.
It was just a bad accident. It was just me, young, got into an accident.
So I thought that I was helping her. You know, so when this balance is due, I'm the one that's out.
The car hit me and ran the light and it hit me.
You know, I'm the one that suffered. I'm the one that got to pay all of that money.
I'm fine.
So I don't think that that was fair at all.
So for a period of time, let's say 6 or 7 months, her numbers kept changing. First it was 3 months she didn't pay, and then it was 1 or 2 months that she didn't say, and she may have been late a little bit. Well, the insurance company's not going to give you credit for that. And it didn't look to me, based on the papers, that there was any animus between the parties until
right now.
Today. And then maybe she should be angry with me and not at them. They all know each other and get along with each other. So that the amount of money she has to pay is the amount of money she should have paid while she was driving the car but chose to defer.
And I think that that's a good lesson about deferring payments, especially now with COVID and everything. I know people my age, 25, around there, have been deferring payments, whether it be for car notes or for interest on your loans, things like that, that sometimes she didn't even realize that this was all accruing under the surface. So you think that by deferring, if you don't read the fine print, that could be a good lesson that if an
she
accident
said she had a lot of
happens-
other things going on in her life, but that...
And again, it was an accident. You don't call it an on purpose. So.
Case 2133, Morrissey versus Comer. All parties, please come forward.
Tabitha Morrissey is suing her former friend, Tina Comer, for an unpaid loan and personal belongings.
Ms. Morrissey, you have a lot of claims here against the defendant for a personal loan and the value of personal belongings.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. She was a friend of yours. You used to go gambling together, Ms. Morrissey?
Yes, we did.
How many times a week did you go gambling?
Probably once or twice a week.
And did you go just the two of you?
Yes.
And over what period of time?
Over...
A year, 2, 3?
Probably a year.
There was a time when you went, and according to you, Miss Comer didn't have any money. And so you agreed to advance her money. And she says, actually, you agreed to advance her money. And the agreement was if you won, she would pay you back with her winnings, whatever it was. Whatever it was. How much money did you give her to gamble?
I loaned her $230 with the agreement that she would pay me an extra $200 because she was going to get her mother's inheritance.
Okay. On what date?
April 28, 2022.
Okay. And you went gambling with her?
No. She came by and we were going to go meet at the casino, but I didn't really want to do it because I have a boyfriend that doesn't
Just a second. I don't need a whole story.
Okay. All right. Sorry. So she went to the casino without me, and then she came by my house after that. and told me that she spent her boyfriend's money at the casino, and so that she was supposed to use it at the store. And so I gave her the money to cover that, and that's when we made that agreement.
You gave her the money to cover that because she asked you for it?
Yes.
And she agreed to pay you back?
Yes.
February, did you go to the casino and lose some of your boyfriend's money?
No.
Did you go to her house and tell her that you lost some of your boyfriend?
It wasn't in February.
What month?
It was probably April.
I don't care what month it was. Did you tell her you lost your boyfriend's money at the casino?
Tabitha Morrissey claims her former friend, Tina Comer, owes for an unpaid loan and personal belongings.
Go.
No, it was in February.
February.
I won a jackpot.
Just a second. February, did you go to the casino and lose some of your boyfriend's money?
No.
Okay. Did you go to her house and tell her that you lost some of your boyfriend?
It wasn't in February.
What month?
It was probably April.
I don't care what month it was. Did you tell her you lost your boyfriend's money at the casino?
$30 of it. Okay. But in February, I won a jackpot. And I didn't have my license with me because I lost my wallet. And they told me I had to come back with my license to get it.
I don't want to hear you.
Sorry.
So I asked Tabitha if she would take me back up to get my jackpot money, and I would pay her the money that I owe her, plus give her $60 for gas. And that's when I paid her the money back. And then her boyfriend also, there's some guy that she brought up there with us, asked if he can borrow some money because he said Tabitha said she'll pay me back. So I gave him $100 too.
When you came back and told her that you had lost some of your boyfriend's money, according to you, it was $30, not $230.
Yeah, it was $30. I already paid her the $2-something when she took me to Cass Creek in February.
Oh, that was before.
Yeah, so I didn't owe her no money. But I paid her back in February, the money that I did owe her. I got proof of it too.
I'd like to see it.
And I got proof that, okay.
Take it out. I'll see whatever proof you have over this loan.
Okay, yes.
And
come on, let's go.
Okay, well, here's where I won the money.
Proof. I also got proof of her saying that when she still owed me the money back in May. I got proof of that too.
Casino check. I'm not interested in this.
That's when I won the money.
I don't care.
And the other one shows when I had to go back and pick it up.
I don't care about that either.
And then...
Shh. April 28th. I can loan you some. That's in April.
Yeah, I said April 28th.
So that's when she asks for some money?
Yes.
And that was the $230?
Yes.
I'd like to see what you have.
This is...
That's April. That's not February.
No.
That's in June when she told me what she owed me in cash-wise.
Okay, so on June 11th, Ms. Comer, you write to her that you saw her take some stuff.
Yes.
Some beads, or friends took beads that belonged to you. And you say to her, so don't tell me you don't steal from me. Friends don't steal from friends. So I won't burn you for what I borrowed, which is $230. But I decided I will not give you the other $200. So I'm just not going to give you the extra. That's what it's going to cost you for stealing from me. You should think twice before you steal from, because I could say, I'm not giving you nothing, so I'm only taking back what I was going to give you. We had to sign some more papers, so I should get it any day, and I will text you when I get it. I'm also missing a half box of sunglasses, and that girl is going to get it. She lied saying the hair clippers were hers. I don't care about all that. Okay, I'm going to deal with this loan of $230. And it's clear from your statement, Ms. Comer, although it's usurious interest, and I'm not going to grant you that other $200 because it's outrageous. She's giving you 100% interest on the $230, but you are entitled to your $230 back.
But
okay, because she acknowledges, just a second, she acknowledges the debt on June 11th.
Mm-hmm.
Now, What about the personal belongings that you say? And don't give me a lot of nonsense. I'm not listening to a lot of nonsense.
Okay, yes. She came to me and said she wanted to do a yard sale, so we were going to do it in May.
Okay, you were supposed to do a yard sale.
Yes.
It worked for a week. It didn't work the next week. What items do you say she has of yours?
She has jewelry of mine.
I'm not listening to jewelry. Show me the insurance receipts for jewelry. Come on. Let's go. What does she have of yours?
I can show you the pictures of her yard sale that does have my stuff in it.
Well, what did she end up with your stuff for? You were there at the yard sale.
I didn't have a car, so she came and picked me up and took me to my storage to go get my yard sale stuff to take over to her house to do it in the yard sale. She was supposed to contact me and come get me when she was getting ready to do the yard sale. I stayed the night at her house, and we were setting up all night long because it was a really big yard sale. It was more like a flea market type thing. And she never contacted me after dropping me back off at home, and she said that my box of jewelry fell out of my stuff when she was loading it up because she fell. So when she got home that night after dropping me off, she said it was in the driveway.
You have that in text
That was
message?
my personal belongings.
You have it?
Yes.
I'd like
yes,
to
I
see
do.
it.
Okay, hold on.
Thank you. So this looks like a lot of cheap plastic crystals.
No, my wedding ring was in that box. I had my box of jewelry with me to go through when I stayed the night at her house, and I was taking out the other jewelry, and the box that was coming with me home, she was loading it up, and she said it fell out of her car. So I don't see how it fell out, but she said it did. So when she got there that night, she said she'd seen it in her driveway. So, I mean, that had my wedding ring in it. And I was in the middle of getting the divorce, but it still means something to me.
$230. Judgment for the plaintiff. We're done here. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
Everything she said was a lie about the money, about all her stuff. Everything was a lie.
Because she just doesn't want to pay me my money.
She just wants to get money out of me. Because I won 2 jackpots and I got my mother's inheritance.
It hurts very much.
She's done.
I don't even care to see her.
That was really very simple when you discarded this garage sale and crystal beads listed as some of the items in the text message that were their boyfriends. Tweezers. When you got rid of that, it was actually pretty simple.
Cash loan, $230.
Cash loan, $230 that she acknowledged in June. So, relatively easy.
Yeah.
Suing her ex-boyfriend's brother, Cleefers McCowan Jr., for personal property and filing a false police report.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case 2143, Simpsons versus McCowan Jr.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Simpson, you lived with Mr. McGowan for, looks like 7 years is what you said.
Yes, ma'am. It was off and on.
What do you mean off and on?
Well, I had another residence as well.
Okay.
And
it's going to get more complicated, I see, than less complicated. You lived off and on, according to you, with the defendant's brother, who is now deceased. Yes. It is your claim at one point in your papers that you and the defendant's brother were married.
Yes, ma'am.
He passed away.
Yes, ma'am.
And it is your claim that the defendant owes you money. He was the executor of the estate, and he owes you money for property that he took from the house and for filing a false police report against you, I assume indicating that you took things from the house.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Mr. McGowan says that you and his brother were never married, while he indicates in his papers there might have been some sort of ceremony of marriage.
Yes.
That his brother somehow must have told him that he never filed the marriage license, so the marriage was never valid.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Well, let's go to that for a moment.
Yeah.
Yes, it's sort of curious and takes me back to law school days. And believe me, that really tests my memory. Were you at the ceremony where your brother married the plaintiff?
No, ma'am, I was not.
When did your brother tell you that there was a marriage ceremony?
I probably heard it just throughout life.
You mean throughout life for how long?
From the time that he had any dealings with her.
So about 7 years ago?
Yes, ma'am.
So you asked your brother whether he was married?
Yes.
How long ago was this?
I would say 4 years ago.
Okay, so 4 years ago, you say to your brother, I understand that you, what's your first name?
Mona.
Mona got married.
Well, so he gave me an insurance document, and I was like, wow, what's going on? What about all this?
He gave you an insurance document that said what?
From the VA indicating that I was going to be the person that gets the money upon if he demise.
If he died,
right? And
you had a VA insurance policy.
Yes, ma'am.
With you as the beneficiary.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and so he showed you the insurance policy.
Well, he sent it to me in the mail.
Okay, and
email or electronic. And so I said, wow, what's going on? So then I started to ask different questions, and he said, well, don't worry about that. We're not legally married.
No, you have to tell me. I said to him.
I said to him, so doesn't your wife
Isn't she the beneficiary?
I don't want to be involved in all this.
Right.
And he said, I am not married. We went through a ceremony, and you have 10 days to file the
marriage license.
The marriage license in Las Vegas.
Okay.
To solidify the marriage. And then he said, I never filed it. We are not married.
May I?
Just a second. Did your brother tell you that he had ever told Ms. Simpson that he never filed the marriage license?
No, we never had that conversation.
Okay, well, because you say in your answer, sir, that my brother was too smart for that, he never mailed in the license.
Well, he told me because there was a problem between these two. And so we talked about that, and he said, no, I'm not married to her. And he said, you have to file the document, and I never filed the document. And I have a copy of that right here.
Ms. Simpson,
yes, ma'am.
Tell me when this ceremony took place in Las Vegas.
April 2013.
Did you travel there with Mr. McGowan?
Yes, ma'am. We moved to Vegas together.
Who was at the ceremony?
It was no ceremony. What happened was I don't know what this is. What happened was we went to the Justice of the Peace, and the 10 days is not accurate.
No, don't
apologize.
Don't tell me.
We had 1 year to go to like a pastor or minister or something like that because we just went to the Justice of the Peace in Vegas. They give you a year to do it, whereas it's, I guess, what I think the term is officiant or something. Officiant has to do it so you can become married permanently.
So you knew that you were not legally married?
Well, it was legal, but it would be official if you don't do another step within a year. And
I understand that, but you never did the other step.
We didn't, only because he was sick, ma'am.
I don't care what the reason was. I don't care if he was watching Yellowstone or because it doesn't matter why.
I respect that.
What? You can get hooked on that.
No, yeah.
I understand.
So
no,
I don't care what the reason is. You knew that your marriage, because it wasn't confirmed, according to you, within a year that you weren't legally married.
Yes, ma'am. And that
okay, just a second. That's all I want to know. That makes my life much easier. Because, Mr. McGowan, I want you to listen to me very carefully. Under what you told me, under the events that you told me, so you should have kept your mouth shut.
No, it's okay.
No.
It's going to be okay in the end. It's going to make a lot of sense in the end.
No, I understand that it's going to make a lot of sense to me. We're going to follow the money. But I just want to tell you and the people who are watching this that when I thought about your answer, that you said your brother was too smart and didn't file the necessary document within 10 days, my view of that scenario was that she could still consider herself his wife. Because if he fraudulently, in an attempt to deceive her, didn't mail the marriage license in, she would be the beneficiary. I'm just letting you know that. You understand what I just said?
Yes, ma'am.
Because he committed a fraud on her. He would have committed a fraud, your brother, on her into leading her to believe that they were a married couple and they had the responsibilities and the benefits of a married couple. But she says she volunteered that she knew they weren't married.
Yeah.
So I don't even have to address that.
And it's okay.
Just a second. I know where I'm coming from.
Okay.
So Mr. McGowan, the person that you were involved in for a period of years, on and off, you had your own place, but he was ill for a certain period of time. Was your brother ill?
No, ma'am.
No. Just a second. He says no. You say he was ill for a great portion of that time. Shh. Just a second. For a great portion of that time, and that you were his caregiver.
Yes, ma'am.
And you were paid as his caregiver by the government.
The VA, yes, ma'am.
By the VA to be his caregiver.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that would be inconsistent with being his wife, to be his caregiver. Because if you're a wife, you don't get benefits from the VA. If you are a non-relative and caring for somebody who requires assistance, you may get assistance. And how much was the VA? Just answer my question.
Yes,
this is not my first rodeo.
Okay, I understand.
How much was the VA paying you a month to take care of, what was your brother's first name?
Marcus.
How much were you being paid to take care of Marcus? Because you say that one check you didn't get because of him. It's part of your lawsuit, so you know exactly how much you were paid.
Ma'am.
How much?
$2,057.55.
A month.
Yes,
and when
ma'am.
did you start collecting that?
2014.
Woo! You are a legal stranger, so you must have filled out forms to say that you were married.
No, I was considered a family member. I was no longer considered the wife, but I was considered...
Well, you're not no longer. You were never his wife.
Ramona Simpson claims her ex-boyfriend's brother, Cleefers McCowan Jr., threw out her personal belongings. Cleefers is countersuing for damage and stolen property.
Okay, so there was a reason why you didn't continue to solemnize the marriage ceremony that you went through in 2013, because you started to collect $2,000 a month from the VA in 2014 that you couldn't have collected were you his wife. That's a yes.
No, it isn't, ma'am.
Oh.
Receiving the benefits from the VA, you have to be a family member. You have to be related to that person in order to get this stipend pay. It wasn't a regular VA payment, and it's for relatives. You have to be a relative for that veteran.
What are you getting? Oh,
yes, it's true.
Just check that,
Full
Sarah.
up stipend pay for the VA, because we're both disabled veterans. It's not like I just had to do this. I loved him, and I care for him, and he was sick the day I met him.
Just a minute, you both disabled veterans?
Well, my disability was not as crucial as his was.
How much do you collect?
I very minimum, because
Which I asked you a
30%.
question. That's a very minimum.
Yes.
It's not a number.
Yes, it's $300 and some change. But the thing is, Your Honor, may I speak, please? He was sick from the day that I met him, and I was taking care of him prior for that. This was his idea, because he was familiar with the veterans and the system. This was his idea that we can receive funds, and it stayed right in the household. We were living together. It was stayed in the household, and that's okay with them.
I thought you told me a moment ago that you had your own place.
No, not then, ma'am. Not then, when we moved back from Vegas, because we stayed in Vegas for approximately 3 years. When we moved back from Vegas, he had purchase of home and everything, and it was supposed to be okay. We were going to be together. But he started living another alternate life, which he was very familiar with, because he's introduced him to so many people. I don't even care about that. I still continue to take care of Marcus. It was no longer a romantic situation.
Now you still continue. You had your own place.
I lived both places, because he needed me more there than he did when we was living together.
What kind of alternative lifestyle was he doing that he needed you there part-time?
He was seeing other people and
he was
stuff like
seeing
that.
women.
Pardon me?
He was seeing other women.
He was seeing other people, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so he was seeing other people. But let me finish.
Yes, ma'am.
But you continued to receive the $2,057. You knew you weren't married. That money was coming directly to you. It wasn't coming to him.
Well,
it was coming to you. At what address?
He was giving me a portion from his bank account, and then when we discontinued everything, there was nothing physical. Then I was receiving my full allotment at that point, but I was still taking care of him, taking him to the VA, taking him to the hospital.
Wait just a second. I don't care. Don't go like this and like this. He's a legal stranger to you, and you're getting $2,000 a month to take him to the VA.
Ma'am, he was not a legal stranger.
He was a legal stranger to you. Legal. He was not your mother, father, brother, sister, or husband.
Ma'am, he was a dear friend of me. He continued to be a friend, honestly.
Well,
and he knows that. We went to several places together.
I'm setting up for myself what is the actuality of the situation. Now, I understand that I was really not prepared for this scenario. I was prepared for somebody, quite frankly, Miss Simpson, who had been defrauded by his deceased brother into believing they were married. She took care of him when he was sick. And all of a sudden, now that he's deceased, his brother comes in, kicks her out of the house, and takes all of his property. That's the scenario. But now I understand that that is not the case, that you knew you weren't married, that for 8 years you collected $2,000 a month for taking him to the doctor's offices, to the vet, to taking care of him in the house, but you understood that he was seeing other people, that you didn't have an exclusive relationship. Now I understand it. And you did receive a certain benefit from that, because when you moved back from Vegas, you went to your own place because he was having an alternative life that had nothing to do with you. At that point, was the money going to his bank account or yours?
It was going to his bank account, ma'am.
Okay. Well, you say that he notified the government. Part of your lawsuit is for 1 month's check that you say, or 2 months, that you didn't get. And you say you didn't get it because he notified the VA, or somebody notified the VA. I don't care who notified the VA. What I want to know is, with those checks immediately preceding Mr. McGowan's death, going into his bank account or yours that he had?
His. It was going into Marcus's bank account.
Okay, and he was giving you money from that bank account?
Prior to his death, yes, ma'am.
Right up to the time he got sick and died?
Yeah.
Okay,
yes,
and how much would he give you?
He would have given me $2,057. $2,000.
All right.
No,
okay,
you mean total?
No,
I'm sorry.
No, I get it. It was not what I thought, but I get it.
Ma'am, may I
okay,
please say
money owed for
something?
the return of property. What property?
The property, which is my funds. I have jewelry that was missing and clothing that I never received because he kicked out his niece and boarded up the house.
Just a second. Was your brother taken to the hospital?
Yes, ma'am.
On what date?
28th of August, 2021.
Okay.
He was nowhere to be found.
Just what?
He wasn't around.
Just a second.
I did that.
Just a second. Did you take him to the hospital?
I had his daughter to call an ambulance. I got to Marcus's house and I followed him to the hospital. Yes, ma'am.
Hey, well, you want to just answer my question? I actually understand the whole scenario. You understand that I do understand the money part. I get it. So when you say his daughter called the ambulance and you got over there from your house?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and who do you live with there?
My daughter and my son.
And in whose name is the lease?
My daughters, my son, and myself.
So all three are on the lease?
Yes, ma'am.
And how long have you had a lease at that address?
2017.
Okay, so we're talking about 5 years that you've had an alternative address. You have an answer for me?
There is a Veterans Affairs program of comprehensive assistance for family caregivers. It says $2,800 a month, but based on a fee schedule that can change. So the 2057 fits within the range.
And does it define family members?
It doesn't define the family caregiver, only that the VA may appoint someone who's part of the primary family caregivers to the veteran, but it doesn't identify who qualifies as a family caregiver.
As a family caregiver. And that's the act that you were under. But you were not a member of his family.
Yes, ma'am.
You were not a member of his family.
Well,
not a well. Not a well. This is not a well. You're living with your daughter, your son, on a lease since 2017. You know he's got an alternative lifestyle that has absolutely nothing to do with you. He was giving you the $2,000 a month. I don't know why. I don't even have to get into that.
Ma'am,
But you were not
that individual,
But you
ma'am.
were not a family member. If this is for family,
It does go to the veteran to then give the family caregiver, though.
Okay, but you are a legal stranger to him. So you must have filled out forms to say that you were married.
No, it's up to that. It's up to that individual, the veteran, and I know how the procedure goes. It's up to that individual. I was considered a family member. I was no longer considered the wife, but I was considered.
Well, you're not no longer. You were never his wife. So if he filled out a form and
I'm okay with that, ma'am, because I could have.
Okay, so he had the right. You were never his wife. He had the right to board up the house, whichever it is, and you weren't living there for 5 years. You had a place. So if you had clothes there and your jewelry, what were your clothes and your jewelry there? If he was fooling around with other women, why would you leave your clothes and your jewelry in the house?
Okay, ma'am. The thing is, no one has came to the home as another woman in that home. I was always there. He has no proof or evidence that I was not there. So basically, I had their clothes there because I stayed there. I lived there.
Forget it. You were more than compensated with $2,000 a month. What's next? I don't believe that you leave any valuable jewelry at his house.
I was there most of the time, honestly.
You don't need valuable jewelry if you're taking care of a sick person.
Ramona Simpson is accusing defendant Cleefers McCowan Jr. of throwing out her personal belongings.
Okay. Do you have any of her property?
No, ma'am.
Did you dispose of any of her property?
I didn't. She had no property
Just
there.
a second. I don't believe she had any property there either, anything of value.
And I did.
Okay.
Can I?
Excuse me.
I did find what the VA considers a caregiver. So if you're a spouse, son, daughter, parent, step-family member, or extended family member of a veteran, or if you live full-time with them, or if you're willing to live full-time with them if they designate you as the family caregiver.
So technically,
if you're willing to live with the veteran full-time, you could be qualified as a family caregiver, but it's up to the veteran to declare their own family
caregiver if you live there full-time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she stated if you were willing to, and I was always willing to.
Okay.
And because
Good. I don't feel as if you were shortchanged, madam, at all. And I don't believe that you had anything of value in the house. So your case is dismissed. Now we're going to get to the second part of your claim. You say she took property from the house?
Yes, ma'am.
What property?
She took jewelry, guns.
What jewelry?
Chains, rings, cufflinks.
Show me.
Entire.
Show me. How am I going to figure that out? You have photographs of things?
Yes, I have some photographs here.
This is so sad.
So sad. You have to put a period and end it. You had a good thing going for 9 years.
Ma'am, the money was paid in the arrears, first of all. So me not getting paid for, and this is really not a big issue to me, what he's saying, because they're all lies, and I'll tell you the truth.
Just say, I'm not saying anything, madam. All I'm saying is you have no case, because I don't believe that somebody who lived in a lifestyle, as you've described, as you described to me, which is you have your own home, where you're on a lease since 2017, where you said to me he had an alternative lifestyle, but I still took him to his VA appointments. I took him, and I was his caregiver, but I lived with my daughter and my son. I don't believe that you leave any valuable jewelry at his house.
I was there most of the time, honestly.
You don't need valuable jewelry if you're taking care of a sick person.
But
Can I see?
I was taking was also friends, ma'am.
I've decided your case.
I respect that.
This is just what had happened to looking for everything that was taken in there.
I don't care. Who cares? What are you showing me? You're showing me that the place is a mess, that somebody went through it?
I'm showing you what...
I don't care.
Okay.
I don't care. Prior to his death, when had you seen your brother last?
I had seen him about 5 days prior to that.
You live close by?
I was living in San Diego at the time, and he lived in Highland, which is 79 miles up the 15 freeway.
Okay, so 5 days prior to the 5 days prior that you saw your brother, when had you seen him before?
We see each other quite frequently. We have family barbecues, this, that, and the other. I'm retired. I go.
Okay, would you return these to him? These don't show me any jewelry.
Okay.
It shows me that the house looked like it was picked through.
Okay. Thank you.
What else?
So quite frequently.
That's it. Did you get a VA benefit from your brother for his insurance?
From the life insurance
policy? Yeah, that's from the VA.
Yes, ma'am.
And how much did you receive?
$2,600.
Who paid for his funeral?
I did.
How much was that?
$1,100 or $1,200.
So you took some of the insurance money and paid for it?
Yes.
Did he have any other valuable asset?
He had quite a bit of stuff. It's in probate as we speak.
Oh, so case is in probate
It's in probate right now as we speak.
Oh, great. So I don't have to deal with it. Your case is dismissed. We're done. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
You know what? I have a lot of respect for the judge, but she didn't listen to me.
Well, I'm happy that the judge made the decision that she made.
He's a habitual liar.
Thief. My brother died, and within a half a day went over and burglarized the house.
This is something that he can laugh about, and he's going to go and tell the whole world that I'm still a liar. I'm still a this, that, and the other.
There is quite a bit of items that belong to me that this person stole.
That you can love someone and not be married to them. You can help someone and not be married to them and making love to them. I was genuinely there to help Marcus because I love Marcus.
The devil. I don't want the devil, the devil.
He barred me from the funeral. I didn't fight it because the respect I have for his family and for Marcus. I could have went there. No. I said, you know what? I won't be there.
I hope that she crawls back in the rat hole she came out of and does whatever she does.
You know what was interesting in that case, Sarah? When I read the complaint and the answer, I had a whole different vision.
Me too.
Of what the arrangement was. And based upon what the defendant wrote in his answer, that his brother, with regard to the marriage, to his brother telling him, I'm too smart, I didn't mail in the papers.
Read like fraud a little bit.
Right.
But she was in on it. She knew. She didn't complete the steps.
She didn't complete the step for a different reason, but she knew
that they weren't legally married.
That they weren't legally
Which
married.
changes the whole game from a legal perspective.
Right. Certainly the fact that the case is currently in probate made my life a lot easier. Anyway, it should be a warning signal when you get married out there, folks, and you have a marriage license, because I performed enough weddings to know you have to seal it, sign it, put a stamp on it, and usually put it in the mail within 3 days of the ceremony. So brides and grooms, make sure you put it in the mail together, or watch the officiant put it in the mail.
Noah Joyner and Harland Hendrickson are suing their former employer, Christopher Ricks, for unpaid wages and vandalism.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case 2094, Joyner Hendrickson versus Ricks.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think that I'm going to start out with Mr. Joyner. Who is that? That would be you, because we start with you. He came in later to this scenario, is that right?
Right.
So let me try to understand, Mr. Joyner, what it is that you're suing the defendant for, considering what you wrote to me in your complaint. You were looking for a job. Whatever business you had went south, and you didn't have any money.
That's not true.
Well, let's see.
It was said like that, but we did not lose a...
After losing my jewelry business.
Yes, ma'am. That's not right.
Well, that's what you signed in your complaint.
Yes.
So I can only go by what you signed in your deposition. That you lost your jewelry business, that's what it says. In any event, you were looking for a job. The defendant has a theater, among other businesses.
Yes, ma'am.
And you sought out the defendant, Mr. Joyner?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me how you sought him out.
I was vending at a coffee shop. I was vending my jewelry. It's not a lost business.
Would you just get on to how you met him?
Definitely. So I was vending there, and I saw at the theater Pride Weekend. So I had called Chris Ricks, said, hey, is it okay if I come up there and vend my jewelry?
Just a second. So you called him. Was his name on the poster? How did you find him?
I just called the theater's number, and he answered.
Okay, so you weren't calling him, you were just calling the number.
Yes, ma'am.
So you asked him, can I come and sell my jewelry at your theater? When was that?
That was Wednesday, June 16th, 2022.
Okay, and you were having some sort of an event?
Yes, ma'am.
Did Mr. Joyner come and set up his jewelry booth?
They did, in fact.
Were they charged for that?
No, I did not. I just simply offered the space. They kind of told me their backstory and that they were having financial troubles, and I was trying to do a good deed for the community.
Okay, so you were not charged for the space?
Right. Yes, ma'am.
And you went up there on what date to sell your jewelry?
We started Thursday night, June 17th, 2022.
When you say we, is that you?
All three of us, yes.
Okay, so did you sell any jewelry?
A little bit.
So not much, not enough for the three of you spending a day on the 17th. And then how did it come about that you sought out a job from Mr. Ricks? Because you did seek a job. On what date did you ask him if there was any work?
Thursday night. Thursday the 16th.
And what were you supposed to do?
Supposed to bartend, open, close.
That's not accurate.
I'll get to you.
And
what
run
were you
concession
supposed
stand.
to do?
And run the concession stand. Bartend, close, open, and run the concession stand.
During what hours?
4 p.m. that day till 12 a.m., 1 a.m. that night. Could not really remember.
Okay, and did you do that?
Yes.
And you weren't selling your jewelry at that time?
I was going off and on, so anytime he had called me for a different job, I would take that. Sorry.
So the answer is you were doing both?
Yes, ma'am.
So you were doing your own business and doing whatever task Mr. Ricks asked you to do?
Yes.
That was on the 16th. And did he pay you for that work?
Yes, he ended up paying
And just
us.
a second. And how much did he give you?
Gave us $264 for that weekend.
Not we.
I gave me $264 that week.
Did he work that weekend?
Yes, we all three worked that weekend.
Doing what?
Everything.
Well,
we did.
Mr.
We opened.
Hendrickson is not suing for any wages from him other than for the painting that he did later. I'm asking you, what did you do for him and when, and how much did you get paid?
I did opening, closing duties for him. I ran a bar.
For how many days?
4 days, Your Honor.
4 days.
In the beginning, but I did pick up more stuff whenever he called me for more opportunities. So he would be like, hey, we have jam band tonight. So I would say, okay, I could work.
Okay, so you worked, say, until June 20th, you said, for 4 days, and then you would work after that period of time?
Yes, ma'am.
When did you stop going to the theater for the purposes of doing anything for Mr. Ricks? Month and day?
Oh.
One of the things you're supposed to have, Mr. Joyner, when you come to court, and if you're suing for wages, is you're supposed to have it right here, right in the front of your brain. What date you started, what date you stopped, what hours you worked, what you did. That's what you're supposed to have. Do you understand? Okay. Mr. Ricks, on what date was the last date you saw Mr. Joyner at your theater doing anything?
Saturday, June 25th.
So it would be a fair statement that certain days you saw him between the 16th of June and the 25th of June.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, you told me about the 16th that you started working part-time because you were back and forth between your own business and doing something for him, for which actually he gave you free space to sell your jewelry. Now, when you go someplace, you usually pay for space to sell your jewelry, right?
Right.
Well, I mean, I know that because I've had hundreds of cases involving people who rent space in a theater or under a tent or in a yard so that they can sell their jewelry. He gave it to you for nothing.
Yes.
And you're back and forth doing little errands for him on the 16th. Like what? 16th, while you were selling your jewelry. Tell me what you did.
We worked the jam band for them that night.
Not a we. I don't want to hear a we.
I worked the jam band that night. He has like a jazz band that comes in and performs.
And what do you mean you worked?
I worked the concession. I opened, closed, bartended for him. Anything that he was calling me over to do.
That's a little too loosey-goosey for me.
No, I can tell
That's a little too loosey-goosey for me. Okay, let's go. What did he do, if you remember, on the 16th?
On the 16th, 17th, and 18th, that's when they had their jewelry set up. He did not work my concession stand at all. He did not work for me that time at all.
That's not
true.
He
started working.
Don't speak. Do not speak. Do you see I asked you questions? He was quiet. Now it's his turn to speak. Now you have to be quiet. You understand?
He worked Sunday, June 19th from 9 to 2, which was 5 hours. That was brunch. He worked June the 22nd. They were late. They arrived at 3:12.
You said they arrived.
Both of them came that day.
On the 20s?
On June the 22nd.
22nd.
Mm-hmm.
Was that the first time that both Mr. Joyner and Mr. Hendrickson came together?
To work for me in a theater capacity, yes.
Okay. That's incredible. And that was June 19th?
No, that was June the 22nd. But actually, I misspoke. I apologize. They both worked June 19th for brunch. They both worked June the 22nd. On June the 24th, he had a text meltdown, and then he came to work and worked 5 to 9. I have their hours exactly.
5 to 9, and that's just Mr. Joyner or both of them?
They both came on June the 25th, Your Honor.
And worked from when to when?
On the 25th, which is Saturday, he worked from 5:20 to 10:30. He passed on the concession opportunity where he could have made more money.
No, but he worked doing what?
He trailed me. I was trying to teach him managerial type cash in, cash out, et cetera, and the business situation of the theater, because that's what he proposed to me that he was educated to do. And so
you mean managing a theater?
Yeah, just kind of helped me with open, close duties, overseeing that tasks are done by the other employees, et cetera.
Okay, so it sounds as if he and Mr. Hendrickson worked for a limited number of days.
Correct.
How many days in total?
In the total project, which is painting.
No, not
just the
painting.
theater. Just the theater.
In the theater.
Joyner worked 4 days at the theater, and Harland worked 3 days at the theater.
Okay, and how many?
4, I beg your pardon.
4.
Yes, ma'am.
Your last day of work, that was the 25th of June?
Yes, ma'am. At the theater.
I'm talking about only at the theater.
I think he worked 18 hours, just at a quick glance here.
18 hours during the 4 days.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Hendrickson, how many hours did he work on? You don't have anything in front of you, Mr. Hendrickson, so I assume you have nothing. No physical evidence, is that right?
Correct, Your Honor.
All right, good. How many hours?
Just under 12, actually.
Say 12 hours. So one worked 18 hours, one worked 12 hours. Do you have any data to indicate that those hours are wrong?
No, ma'am.
Okay, great.
There was no actual documentation, like we did not have a clock in, clock out, but the 18 hours is not correct, though. We have no data.
You have no data.
Right.
He does.
It's not actual fact. It's not factual.
I don't know whether it's factual. How do I know? You're supposed to keep track.
Noah Joyner and Harlan Hendrickson claim their former employer, Christopher Ricks, owes for unpaid wages and vandalism. Christopher is countersuing for damage to his apartment complex and slander.
Okay, how much were you paid, Mr. Joyner? Because part of it is your wages that you're requesting for working in the theater. How much in total did Mr. Ricks pay you?
$264.
That's for the theater work?
Yes, ma'am.
And how much, Mr. Hendrickson, did Mr. Ricks pay you?
$204.
Sarah, do math for me, would you please? 18 into 264 and 12 into 204. Now, on what date, Mr. Joyner, because this is where it gets sort of fuzzy to me. So far, this is what I'm getting, that the three of you were trying to start a business that was marginally successful in selling jewelry. So far, do we agree on that?
Yes, ma'am.
And as part of selling your jewelry, you approached the defendant, and it was really a cold call. You called a regular number, not Mr. Ricks personally, and told him your story. And he said, well, if you want to come down, I'll give you free space to sell your jewelry. And that was within his theater area.
Yes, ma'am.
So you would say that was very nice of him. And you worked for him, and he showed you the place, he showed you the books, he showed you, you started to do other things. Now, at some point, this is where I go a little fuzzy with you, Mr. Joyner, and maybe you can help me understand you. So you have someone who's been nothing but nice to you so far. On what date did you file a complaint with Alcohol and Beverage Control?
That was July 5th, 2022.
So let me figure this out. So you worked for him at the theater until June 25th. On July 5th, is that what you told me?
Well, after the 25th of June, so we had kind of like a weird period where we were trying to figure out if we still wanted to finish the apartments for him. And
No apartments. We haven't gotten to the apartments yet. I'm going to get to the apartments because he asked you to paint apartments. You went over there, and that's another part of your lawsuit. Just a second. Sarah Rose, how much did Mr. Joyner make per hour?
$14.60.
Minimum wage.
And Mr.
It's
Hendrickson
11 in Arkansas.
would be 17 an hour.
And he made 17 an hour.
Correct, for 12 hours at $200.
But there was no
Those
actual.
hours are not correct.
There was no actual documentation. Like we did not have a clock in, clock out. But the 18 hours is not correct, though. We have
Just
no
a second.
data. We
Just
have
a
no
second.
data.
You have no data.
Right.
He does.
But there's no it's not actual fact. It's not fact.
I don't know whether it's factual. How do I know? You're supposed to keep track.
Yes, ma'am.
You're supposed to keep track.
We're not the business owners.
Just a second. You want
Of
the
the
money.
theater.
Right now, he's paid you more than the minimum wage for being around. I mean, the theater ran for how many years before they worked for you for 6 days?
Been about a year and a half. I bought it during COVID.
Okay, and this was your first time working in a theater.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so you had no fund of information. He wasn't paying you for expertise. He was paying you for those few days, and you were following him around, opening, closing a stand, whatever you were doing, and you were paid more than the minimum wage, which is, I assume, more than you made selling your jewelry for the 3 days you were there.
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
Right.
Okay, I'm still going to wait for this answer, because at some point after you stopped working for him at the theater, and after you had mulled over some information that you thought you had acquired while you were working for him, I want you to do a step-by-step why you contacted the authorities, because he does have an alcohol license, right? I assume if you have an alcohol, if you contact, don't look at each other. Just look at me. I'm actually the nastiest one here.
Agreed.
Well, so alcohol beverage control. So what information, sir, did you give alcohol beverage control that caused the investigation?
Your Honor, he was not the one that called them. I was.
We both called. So what happened during the time that we were working those 4 days, he would serve other people alcohol. He would get on our asses about IDing people, how to sign the papers for ABC, everything. And I made sure to take a picture of the number. I didn't take a picture of the whole document itself.
What are you talking about? What document?
The ABC paper. Whenever we had to sign the paper saying that if we didn't ID someone and the ABC came in and found out about it, we would be fined and we would be held responsible, not Chris. We had to sign those papers.
Okay.
That stuff.
So you signed the
but
papers.
During that, after we signed that, we noticed Chris was still giving out free alcohol to people, pouring it, wasn't even checking people's IDs. So I called the ABC and I said, I think there's suspicion that he's giving minors alcohol. Because there were people there that were 19 years old that were coming up to us saying, oh, well, yeah, we're 19, but we're cool with Chris, and stuff like that, in ways. Like they had a way with Chris or whatever, friends with Chris. We just started working there. We don't know the regulars. We don't know what the life is like.
I'm just trying to think of why you would do that for somebody who was, forget whether I believe you or not, forget the loosey-goosey of what you just told me. Maybe he said,
We actually have a recording that he admitted to giving one of our 19-year-old employees alcohol. Because he said...
And? Just tell me, and? I want to know why you called them on July 5th. You were no longer there. Did that have to do with the painting? Was that before or after you started painting?
That was after we started painting.
Of course it was after you started painting. Now, so let's go to the second part of your lawsuit. Second part of your lawsuit involves the work that you both did for him. You have an apartment complex, Mr. Ricks.
Correct.
And that apartment complex contains how many apartments?
20. I bought it as a rehab.
And
it was completely vacant. And
at the time that you asked them if they wanted to paint it, it was vacant, all 20 units?
Correct.
Tell me, how did you approach Mr. Ricks, or he you, about this house painting job?
We were trying to get away from all the stuff that we were seeing and hearing at the theater. So we asked if he had other jobs for us, and he said he had apartments that needed to be painted last week, and that if we could get in there and finish them, great.
Okay, now I'm going to come back to what you just told me. You just told me that you saw things at the theater that he served somebody that you know who was 19 alcohol. And that was very distressing to you. So distressing that you said to him, do you have any other work for us?
It wasn't just that
Just a second.
instance.
Just
no,
a
ma'am.
How many hours did you work on each of those days, Mr. Hendrickson?
I do not remember the hours for the days, but I calculated all the hours together, and it was 52.
Well, then you know how many hours you worked.
Technically, yes.
What do you mean, technically, yes?
Noah Joyner and Harlan Hendrickson claim their former employer, Christopher Ricks, owes for unpaid wages and vandalism. Christopher is countersuing for damage to his apartment complex and slander.
Okay. Did he take you over to paint the complex in handcuffs? Did he take you over there in a van? Did you ask him for additional work?
He's the only person really in Hot Springs, Arkansas that we felt like we could relate to and feel comfortable working for.
I asked you a very simple question. Give me a very simple answer. Did you ask him for more work?
Yes.
And did he say, I have an apartment complex that needs painting?
Yes.
And did you agree on a price?
Yes, ma'am.
And what was the name of the last person that you did painting for? House painting?
I did it for my parents when we built our house, but that's...
Very nice. I also painted a room once in my dining room when I was 24 years old. I actually thought I did a pretty good job. I would not hire myself out as a house painter, but because I painted my parents' living room when I was 12. So the answer is you had no...
The reason why he was asking us to paint because he couldn't find someone else to paint for him because he wasn't paying people.
I didn't ask Noah to paint.
Shh.
That's correct.
Just a second. Sir.
I was not asked to paint.
Sir.
No.
Mr. Joyner, you know what your problem is? Your problem is you were dissatisfied with what you saw at his theater. And then you went, and now I'm speaking. You were dissatisfied with what you saw at his theater. While you were there, working at the theater, you did nothing about it. Zero. Even if it was true, you did nothing about it.
We didn't want to lose our jobs at the time, Your Honor.
You didn't have jobs at the time. You stopped working for him on the 25th of June. You didn't call alcohol until July 5th, you said, so you were no longer working for him in the theater. So it didn't start to bother you, really. June 22nd, June 23rd, June 24th, June 25th, the 26th, the 27th, the 28th, the 29th, the 30th, all the way up until July 5th.
The ABC report was not just filed by me, and it wasn't just on July 5th. There was also another instance where it was filed earlier, but that was with them, and there's no evidence about it.
Just a second. You filed July 5th.
Yes, ma'am.
Now you're going to tell me what happened with the painting, because you finished the painting kerfuffle happened in July, is that right?
Right.
And it was after the painting kerfuffle that you called alcohol beverage.
Yes,
After
ma'am.
the painting kerfuffle.
Well, it was
So that-
during. It was during.
What?
It was during, kind of, almost.
You're getting the feeling that
It
I'm
wasn't
not
just
sympath-
me that
you're
filed
getting,
the report
you're
with
getting,
ABC.
Well, just a second. You mean one of these other people who was also
Harlan
jobless?
filed.
I don't care.
So we shouldn't have-
Nobody
we
was
shouldn't have
fired.
reported it at all.
No, but
So we shouldn't have
no, I'm
reported it?
trying to get to your motive, sir. If it was so abhorrent,
My
if the
motive? I have
don't,
no
don't
motive.
speak.
I
Don't
am just
try,
owed
don't
what
try to speak
worked
over
for.
me. Don't try to speak over me. That
No, I'm trying to
doesn't
fight for what I'm
work.
owed.
So far, you're not owed a thing for the theater. Now we're getting to the painting. I'm just trying to see what motivates somebody. And I'm not excusing the fact that if Mr. Ricks serves alcohol to minors, that's not a good thing to do. He can get into real difficulty. And they conducted an investigation as a result of the calls.
Absolutely.
All I have to ask you is this: do you still have your liquor license?
Absolutely.
Okay. Was it ever revoked?
No. And I've had multiple in the state of Arkansas.
So you're not owed any money for the theater. Now we're going to get to the paint. When did you start painting in the complex? Date.
June 27th, 2022.
6/27. Did you paint there 6/28?
Yes.
Did you paint there alone or with Mr. Hendrickson?
Mr. Hendrickson.
Is that correct, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you paint on June 29th?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you paint after June 29th?
No, Your Honor.
So you painted there for 3 days. Is that correct?
Actually, 5 days that I was there. I started on the 23rd.
I was there for 3.
And did you work the 23rd?
I worked the 23rd through the 29th.
Just
7 days.
23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th. So you worked weekends.
Yes.
It's not.
Did you work weekends?
I worked the 23rd through the 29th, 7 days.
Well, 7 days. Just a second. Pay attention to me. 7 days includes a weekend,
Yes.
Saturday and Sunday. Did you work
Yes.
Saturday and Sunday?
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
Not Sunday.
I'm going to go back to you. Did you work Saturday and Sunday?
I worked the morning of Sunday, and I left 3 hours
All right.
after getting there.
Okay, so forget Sunday. Now, how many hours did you work on each of those days, Mr. Hendrickson?
I do not remember the hours for the days, but I calculated all the hours together, and it was 52.
Let me understand what you just said to me. You don't know how many hours in each day, but you calculated them together and came up to 52 hours. Would you repeat what he said to me? Because it's mind-boggling to me.
He said, I do not remember the hours for the days, but I calculated all the hours together, and it was 52.
How do you calculate all
sorry,
the
I didn't write you, Your Honor. I
Let
just
me
need
answer,
to be
ask
able
my
to speak.
question, sir. How do you calculate up to 52 when you don't remember how many hours you worked each day?
Looking at the text messages and seeing when I got there and when I left, because I texted him when I opened the doors and when I locked up.
Well, then you know how many hours you worked.
Technically.
What?
Technically, yes.
What do you mean technically yes?
Because they're not completely correct. I didn't text him right when I got there.